story starts with our MC, Jin, thinking about his life. As long as he could remember, he'd preferred reading comics and novels over playing with the other kids. He always looked up to the main characters and wanted to be like them. Then one day he got addicted to a certain game, but unlike many of us, MC was talented and became a pro gamer. He showed good results but was never able to win the championship, always getting second place. No matter how hard he tried, he could never become the main character. Until it happened, an event known as the Cataclysm. Reality became more like a game, dungeons formed all over the world, and monsters started to come out of them. To resist the onslaught of monsters, humans able to use swords and magic started to appear called mana users. Quickly, mana users became more popular than celebrities and athletes. They were the main characters that RMC dreamed of becoming, so he decides to become a mana user. 8 years later, we see RMC. Dreams have been utterly crushed. He finds out he only has 7 mana and talents that are useless in combat. He lashed out, thinking why'd he have to go through so much suffering just to get trash abilities. He decides to wake up from his fantasies and goes home to get some rest before work the next day. When he gets home, he is welcomed by a woman he doesn't recognize and thinks he walked into someone else's home. He leaves but quickly returns, realizing it was, in fact, his home. She introduced herself as Winry Makina, an agent of the universe, and she says came to pay respects to him and give him a gift. Our MC is confused and thinks that she's part of a cult, but she tells him that he is the second person to awaken level 3 communication since the start of the universe. She then bestows onto him some skill and disappears. The skills he receives are observation, status window, tolerance, and info gacha. Her voice tells him to check his status window for more info. He follows her instructions and opens his status window, then goes to see what type of skill is info gacha. A weird toy vending machine appears and spits out a golden capsule. He opens it and is given the winning lottery numbers. We then shift to the previous day, where guild leader Choi Chal-yoon explains how difficult it has been to compete with other guilds for quality dungeons, and then praises MC, because he secured the contract for a recently discovered dungeon. The extras are excited and praise his skills, but a mana user in the room belittles his accomplishment, saying all MC does is drink with people while he has to go out in the dungeon and risk his life. The guild leader yells at him and apologized for the mana user's lack of manners. The leader then gives MC his bonus for landing the contract. With the bonus money, MC now has enough money to pay the fee to awaken and finally become a mana user. In this world, a tool known as the Awaker can turn normal people into mana users, while also measuring their stats and talents. We see that MC's co-workers also came along to support him, and Yu So-yoon, another co-worker. Yu So-yoon goes into the machine first, and MC notice the rude mana user giving So-yoon a weird look. We then shift our attention to someone who has just awakened with mediocre talent, and So Mana. 2 extras explain the Awaker is also called the Lucky Draw, saying how if one gets skills suitable for combat they'll be set, but everything else is shit. Saying it's a waste of money if you get a bad draw. So-yoon then comes out of the Awaker and everyone is shocked that she has 27 mana, and a high number of talents, with her main talent being Saintess. Everyone in the room goes nuts and surrounds her, saying she's going to be the next rising star. Our MC congratulates her for hitting the jackpot, but as they talk, MC is called in to go next. She wishes him the best of luck as he goes into the Awaker. Inside the room, he sees a yellow orb called Odin's Eye, and a voice tells him to firmly put his hands on it. MC is ecstatic that he'll finally become a mana user and accomplish his dreams. But that's all shattered when his results come in. RMC only has 7 mana and 3 talents, with his main talent being communication. Without any talent suitable for combat, he's recommended not to join a combat team. At the front desk, both MC and So-yoon receive mana watches that can track how much mana they have left. His co-worker tries to get him to go home and rest, but he decides to go out drinking. Back in the present, MC is still trying to wrap his head around his current situation. He wonders who was the woman that gave him such a skill, because skills can only be obtained during one's first level up or by finding a rare skill stone in a dungeon. But there is one thing that he knows for sure. His info gacha allows him to get information about the future. He decided to look into it further and use the skill again. Once again the vending machines appears and tell him it cost 1 mana per try, but he only pulls blue capsules that tell him useless information. He complains that the gacha is rigged but notices that his status window tells him his stats and others in real time, unlike the mana watch which has a delay. He laments that he only has 7 mana so he can't use the gacha skill as much as he wants. He then uses his last mana on his gacha and receives super rare information. It tells him the time and places a new dungeon will appear. We fast forward to our MC, making his way to the mentioned dungeon. As he reaches his destination, the portal to the dungeon appears before him. MC is excited, noting that the dungeon is a treasure dungeon, saying there have only been 2 known treasure dungeons, one in a dragon's den in England and the panda's bamboo forest in China. We are then told that there are only 2 times when dungeons are named, when they break and cause a huge disaster or when a legendary item is discovered in one. These treasure dungeons don't have any monsters and you're able to get a legendary item as long as you pass the test. Hopeful about his prospects, he enters the dungeon. We then see MC, frustrated because he's been walking in circles. He realizes that it's an illusion, so he reluctantly uses his observation skill and finds a hidden door. He enters the door and finds a room full of dwarves. They welcome him and congratulate him on passing the first test. One of the dwarves introduces himself as Giz and says the second test is to fight him. If MC wins, he'll get a reward, but if he loses, they just let him go. MC is shocked that he doesn't have to clear the dungeon, but they explain that there have been 4 others before him. He asks if their fight is going to be a spar, but the other dwarves bust out laughing. They call humans uncivilized for wanting to fight with their fists, and explain they stopped doing it because the humans would always lose in one hit. Giz shows MC to a room with a TV and gaming console and says they'll battle using it. As Giz is showing him the controls, MC recognizes the fighting game they are about to play is similar to the game he used to be a pro at. Giz hands him the controller and MC activates his talent game that doubles his gaming skills. He wins against Giz, leaving all the dwarves astonished by his flawless victory. The other dwarves ask for him to face them, but he declines, saying he doesn't want to waste his time if it doesn't benefit him. The dwarves say if he can beat all of them, they give him an even better reward by making something exclusively just for him. The result is obvious. RNC came out on top. One of the dwarves began to analyze him, but quickly runs into an issue and asks for some help. They are all shocked to see his talents are game level 2 and communication level 3. But MC doesn't understand, so they explain if someone has a level 1 talent, it'll take them over a generation to achieve level 2. They tell him how level 3 is for the most part unachievable. They say level 3 can create concepts. One of the dwarves can see the future and uses it to see how MC will fight so they can make him proper equipment. With that, they get to work and tell MC to wait. They quickly come back and toss him a bracelet. He thinks that they scammed him since they didn't take that long, but they tell him that they can accelerate time. They also give him a bag of mana stones as an extra gift. They tell him to come back if he gets a chance and sends him on his way. Once outside, he checks out the bracelet they made him. It's called the King of Arms, and it can change into any weapon the user imagines, while also boosting all the user stats by 10. He's shocked by the effects, but thinks it is too vague and uses info gacha, but only gets useless info. The next day he walks into work and finds the office is pretty empty. The guild leader says he gave them a break before their expedition. He asks MC to participate so he can get his first skill, and MC agrees, seeing it as a chance to test out his item. On the day of the expedition, MC uses a tool to check if the information they received was correct. After confirming the info, the guild leader reminds them to let MC and Soyun finish the monster so they can level up and get their first skill. The combat squad is made up of 6 people, including MC. And Soyun, although it might be considered overkill for a D-ranked dungeon, the guild leader reminds them that they lost 2 B-ranked mana users on the last expedition. And with that, they begin and enter the dungeon. Once they enter, they are greeted by a lizard man, which the rude mana user easily takes care of. He lets Soyun take the kill and forces MC to collect all the mana stones. As they keep exploring, the rude mana user only lets Soyun get the last kill. When called out on it by the other teammates, he says he doesn't care. This earns him more disdain from his teammates who plan to make a complaint against him when the raid is over. Seeing his lack of regard and disrespect for the guild leader, RMC wonders what he might be scheming. They reach the boss room and the asshole leading the party defeats the boss in a single hit. The extras say since Soyun got all the experience she needs, they should let him see. Get the last hit on the boss. But as expected, the asshole says he doesn't care and that he won't let them get out of the dungeon. Realizing what is about to happen, RMC yells at his comrades to dodge, but he is too late and he gets stabbed by the asshole. He then launches an attack on the other two and beheads them. Dark energy leaves the body of the extras he killed, and he absorbs it, getting stronger in the process. MC uses observation to look at his stats and skills and sees a skill called Corpse Plunder. MC figures out it was him who killed the 2 mana users in the last raid. He goes on a villain rant saying he didn't want to rush things, but couldn't wait to take Seoyun's abilities. He goes in to kill MC, but his attack is blocked by the King of Arm in a sword form. Seoyun goes in to sneak attack the asshole, but he easily knocks her back, telling her to wait her turn. MC goes to her to check to see if she was okay. He uses observation and sees that Seoyun has leveled up and received a skill called Absolute Shame. He tells Seoyun and she activates the skill. With the barrier around them, the asshole starts to relentlessly attack it. As he tries to break the barriers, MC attempts to kill the boss so he can level up. The asshole breaks the barrier, but is too late. RMC gets the last hit on the boss. But the asshole explains that the portal opens 20 to 30 minutes after the boss the defeated. Our MC remains calm and tells him he was aiming for a level up. The skill he receives from leveling up is called Connection Gacha. It allows him to load the stats and talent from a randomly selected person recorded in the true universe. He uses the skill and is given a random card. His body is then surrounded by light. Not knowing what is going on, the asshole tries to kill him before anything happens. But the attack is stopped and he's pushed back by the MC's counterattack. MC looks at his status window and we see that he is now overpowered. He now had the stat and skills of Lu Fengxian, a Chinese military general and warlord that live in the Han Dynasty. Even his master of arms turned into Lubu's weapon. The asshole tries to taunt RMC, but he is not fazed, showing off a terrifying aura making the asshole panic. But he still goes to attack MC. Again his attack was blocked and his weapons are shattered. With that, MC finishes him off, telling him to repent in hell. After defeating him, MC wonders whether he's an S rank or even an SS rank, since he managed to defeat in a rank so easily. But before he gets caught up in his thought, he runs to check up on Soyun. As he checks the conditions, a spirit appears behind him saying she probably used excessive internal energy and is showing sign of Kai Berserk. Surprised by the presence of the spirit explains that MC was the one to call him to the present and says his name is Lubu Feng Zai. He tells MC her injuries aren't that serious and all he has to do is infuse internal energy in her life gateway pressure point. MC does as he's told and Soyun's condition gets better. Feng Zion thanked RMC for bringing him out and says his time is up. He asks to be summoned again and they say their goodbyes. He sits there in the aftermath of the battle thinking if only he was faster he could have saved his fallen teammates. Suddenly a notification pops up saying a part of Feng Zion's ability will remain in his body. And we see his stats increase and he obtained a new skill. The portal opens and MC exits the dungeon carrying Soyun. Only seeing 2 of them exiting, the guildmaster yells to get Soyun medical care. And he prepares to get the bad news. MC gives the guildmaster his report, tells him about the murders, and shows him the footage from the dungeon camera. The guildmaster blames himself for not recognizing the signs soon, but MC tries to comfort him. The guildmaster quickly comes to the conclusion that the other deaths were also due to him. MC considers telling the guildmaster about his item, but decides not to, thinking it will endanger the lives of himself and those around him. So he tells him that the boss was mutated and launched a sneak attack on the asshole, fatally injuring him. They decide to end the meeting and MC heads home. When home, MC takes a deep look at the skill he acquired. He sees a drop-down arrow on the info and connection gacha. Under the drop-down, it is a guaranteed gacha skill allowing him to load the stats and abilities of any mana user he has met, including Feng Zion. And 2 of the dwarves. However, the latter cost way much for our MC. Noticing the other dwarves aren't there, he realizes that he has to meet them personally and know their names for them to be registered. He figures out that to make good use of this ability, he needs to meet more mana users and raise his mana capacity. He uses the rest of his mana on his info gacha but gets nothing of note, so he waits till midnight because in this world mana refill at the start of every day. Once his mana is refilled, he uses connection gacha, but it was unlike the last time when he drew an epic hero. This time he received the card of someone with stats lower than his own. His name is Louis Shan, an MC. Recognizes them as the incompetent person who ruined the Han Dynasty. Like before with Feng Zion, a spirit of him appears. MC is disappointed by this and walks away as the spirit is talking to him. Louis Shan demands MC take a look at his talent good luck level 2. MC finally realizes the ability is good for gambling and proceeds to use info gacha. On his first try, he pulls out a golden capsule and praises Louis Shan. The capsule tells the time and places a dungeon will form, along with the info that there is a chance to get a skill stone. MC asks why spirits show him so much goodwill and what the afterlife is like. But Louis Shan says he is mistaken. He's not the real Louis Shan that lived, but a fake persona of him created by the information recorded in the real universe. Thus MC realizes the true meaning of his abilities and talent in communication level 3. Louis Shan tells MC he is basically Louis Shan's creator, also saying since his skill was a gift it would obviously have goodwill in it. Before leaving, he tells MC no matter who he calls on, they'll try their best to help him. The next day at work, the guild master tells his staff he'll be disbanding the guild due to the death of the entire combat team. He explains that it's not only more expensive to recruit new members, but due to the number of deaths in the guild recently, nobody is dumb enough to accept their offer. Later, while MC and the former guild master are having a private conversation, he asks MC if he plans to live as a mana user. MC says yes, and the guild master tells him to be careful. He then hands MC a folder of documents so he can attend an academy to get the basic training he needs. The guild master switches the topic and tells MC they found out the asshole was a member of the Karma Guild, the largest multinational guild. However, they act more like a cult than anything and tell him again to be careful. He thanks our MC for his hard work and wished him the best. The next day we see MC and Louis Shan after losing to the info gacha. Since the good luck skill is level 2 and not level 3, they can't be guaranteed to always win. Louis Shan tells him to roll the connection gacha tomorrow so he can get stronger. The next day comes around and he does just that. We find our MC in front of the academy. He updated his mana watch and we can see how strong he has become, mostly due to Master of Arms and the gold card he received last night, who was a female knight that MC has never heard of. In the distance, MC sees Soyun and calls out to her asking if she's okay after the incident. She says she is fine, and they remember how she used to run to get a good seat when MC was a pro gamer. As they walk together, Soyun stops, and MC thinks she's suspicious of him because of what happened in the dungeon. But to his surprise, she just wanted to clean his jacket. He's thankful that she didn't bring up the subject, and they continue to the academy. For mana users to enter the dungeon, they are required to receive 1 month of compulsory education. Users that are part of a guild receive education from their guild, but those who aren't receive it through the user academy. Those who are a part of a guild would get more personal training, while the academy isn't as individualized and is more group-focused. In the test room, we see it's filled with many mana users who are trying to join the academy. On the stage, an instructor says the admission test will now begin. He says they have to hit the bear as hard as they can, and if they get 30 points, they pass. He then calls up a confident bald extra. With all his might, he strikes the bear, but he gets 27 points and fails. Baldy tries to complain, saying the machine was broken, but the instructor hits it, getting an 88. He then tells the next applicant to come up. As they go up, most fail, but some pass, until it's Soyun's turn. She kicks the bear and scores a 67, impressing the entire room. The instructor looks her up and wonders why she's at the academy when she has a lot of offers from big guilds. MC congratulates her and steps up for his turn. He is told to begin and lines up his kick. His game level 2 talent activates, doubling his stats. He hits the bear and knocks it back, shocking the instructor. He scored a 91 and passes. Everyone is shocked because he is 6 under the all-time high score. 1 month later, we see the guild leader being hounded by a scouter trying to get information on the Saintess, so they can try to recruit her. One of the scouts sees a document about the academy and leaves the room. He makes a call to tell someone to send a scout to the academy. Back at the academy, in the first week, they learn monster theory. The second week is weapons training. In the third week, they take emergency drills. And in the last week, they do joint training. On the last day of class, they are tested to see if they can graduate. On the second to last day of class, So-Yoon is taking a walk but is interrupted by a guild scout. He tries to talk to her, but she runs away saying she is not going to join. So-Yoon finds a place to hide, but a man creeps up from behind and introduces himself as a member of the Ram Guild. But as expected, So-Yoon runs away and declines to speak with any of the scouts. She finally gets away and has a seat with MC. As she complains about the attention, MC asks her why doesn't she take an offer, but So-Yoon replies by saying she'll do as she likes. As she is about to ask him what his plans are for after the academy, they are interrupted by a large man. His name is Kan Hee-shik. He's nervous and excited about the final exam. He asks MC if he wants to have a mock battle with him, but RMC declines, but Kan Hee-shik says they can use Mana Virtual. Mana Virtual is a magical VR tool that allows the user to train and spar in a virtual space. But there lies the issue: because of his game talent, his stats are doubled in VR. If he gets too used to fighting in VR, he'll feel frustrated with his real stats. Hee-shik complains that there is nobody for him to duel, but So-Yoon challenges him, giving off a menacing aura. Hee-shik is excited since she always said no to sparring, but she tells him it's because she is stressed out. In VR, So-Yoon punches Hee-shik in his face. This sends him flying. He thinks she's trying to kill him, but since it's VR, she continues the fight. Hee-shik decides to fight back and rushes to strike So-Yoon, but she dodges and counterattacks, kicking him. MC is surprised that Hee-shik is taking her blows well. He breaks free for a moment, but So-Yoon rushes back in for an uppercut, securing the victory. The instructor watches them as they practice. He thinks that MC reminds him of the person who has the academy record of 96, and the individual who went on to become the world's 9th SS rank user. At the site of the final exam, they are told their task is to clear an E-rank dungeon. If they can do so, they'll get the right to enter dungeons. A B-rank instructor will go with them for safety and supervision. As they wait for the exam to start, So-Yoon gets a panic attack due to what happened last time. But MC and Hee-shik snap her out of it. Team 1 is told to enter the dungeon. MC and Hee-shik hopes that everything goes well because So-Yoon is on that team. But So-Yoon and her team come out safely. Next up is Team 2, so MC and Hee-shik get ready to enter the dungeon. So-Yoon tells MC to be safe, and MC says he will and invites her to get food afterward. The instructor explains to them the objective of the exam, and they enter the dungeon. As soon as they enter, the group is already in battle formation, and the instructor evaluates their actions. MC takes charge and starts to direct his team. The instructor pays close attention to MC, saying he has enough to one day become an S rank. They see an orc and it rushes at them. Hee-shik gets ready to block it. He's pushed back by the attack, and the sub-tanker goes to back him up. MC jumps in and goes for the kill. The instructor thinks that Hee-shik should have been able to block an E-rank orc's charge, so he concludes that the dungeon they're in is close to a B-rank dungeon. Suddenly, 3 orcs charge at them. The archer shoots at them, but they only graze them. Hee-shik blocks one of the orc's charges and flips him over, allowing the group to kill him while he's down. At the same time, outside of the dungeon, someone notices an error. The site supervisor demands to know which seeker traded the academy this dungeon. He finds out it was the Karma Guild. Out of rage, he tossed the man that bought it. He tells everyone that they have been fooled and were given false information about the dungeon. Back in the dungeon, they finally reach the boss room. They open the door and sense a horrifying aura. They head inside, but as soon as the instructor sees the boss, he immediately stops the exam and says it is an emergency. He tells the party that this isn't a rank boss. The boss charges at them. Outside of the dungeon, the man that bought the academy this dungeon is imprisoned. An S-ranker, CO Sanhui, takes charge of the scene. The situation looks grim since the strongest in the dungeon is only B rank, and the boss is a rank. CO Yoon asks if there is a way to rescue them. Sanhui says it's not possible. They can't enter the dungeon unless everyone in it dies, and all they can do is get revenge for their deaths. Back in the boss room, the boss goes to attack with his massive axe, and he strikes fear into the rookies. As the axe is about to hit them, the instructor casts a spell to bind the Orc Lord. He tells everyone he'll be taking over the raid and starts giving out commands. He tells them to try and kill the Orc while it is still binded, but most of the rookies are in despair. The Orc Lord breaks out of the spell and gets ready to kill the instructor. But MC jumps in to stop him, surprising everyone on the raid, even the boss. We flash back to a few minutes, and MC decides he can't afford to hide his strength and calls out Louis Shen. He uses Louis Shen's luck and they use Connection Gacha. He gets a notification guaranteeing a rare or above. Then a diamond card appears in MC. Back in the present, MC knocks back the boss and he breaks a column. This draws some suspicion from the instruction, and MC says it's just luck. But it wasn't luck. He had loaded Siegfried, a great German hero known as the Dragon Slayer. The Orc Lord gets back up and glares at our hip. MC uses observation and sees the Orc Lord is level 82, basically as strong as an S rank. The boss rushes to attack MC, but he's ready to strike back. Their blades meet, but MC parries it and gets in a defensive stance. The Orc Lord attacks again, but MC dodges and counters attacks. This enraged the Orc Lord, and he goes all out, but again his attack is blocked. They continue their battle. The rest of the party just watches in awe. Both MC and the Orc Lord prepare to end the fight, and they go in for a final strike. MC lands a hit in the center of the Orc Lord's chest, winning their battle. The Orc falls to the ground, and MC the spirit of Siegfried tells Mick he did a good job, and everyone else runs over and thanks MC for saving their lives. They have lots of questions, but decide to do that later. However, it turns out the boss wasn't dead. He get back up, he attempts to chop MC's head off. Hishik pushed MC out of the way and blocked the hit. He falls back coughing out blood. MC tries to retaliate, but he's blocked. The instructor tells MC that the boss must have acquired a new skill while on the verge of death. The boss mutated. He let out a war cry, stunning most of the party. The boss rushes at the MC. He tries to parry and go for the legs, but the Orc Lord sees through this and counters. MC blocks it, and Siegfried tells him to use his skill Dragon Blood Awakening. He tells MC it'll heal his wounds and increase his stats while active. Amazed by this cheat skill, MC doesn't see the attack and gets hit. He defends the blows, but before he can use Siegfried's skill, the time on the gacha runs out. Now MC's stats are back to normal. The Orc Lord recognizes MC, has gotten a lot weaker, and gives him a smug look. Without any mana to use the gacha, he finds himself in a grim situation. The Orc Lord reaches out to MC, and he thinks to himself he's come too far to die like this. He tries his best to use his normal abilities, but it is useless. Then he gets a notification saying the Master of Arms has perfectly recreated the abilities of Siegfried's Sword Bomber. It boosts the user's stat by 1000%. With this power up, he was able to cut the Orc Lord in half. After the battle, he levels up and he's thankful for his weapon and the dwarves that gave it to him. He also gains some of Siegfried's stats and the skill of Dragon Blood Awakening. He finds out that gold cards give stats while diamond cards give stats and a skill. Everyone else that witnessed the fight is on edge, thinking MC is going to kill them now that they know his secret, but MC is offended by the sentiment. All the extras are relieved by this, and they prepare to exit the dungeon. Outside, the group prepare drastic measures. The gate starts to act up, and they get ready to enter. But the entirety of Team 2 walks out. As the instructor congratulates the team for making it back, CO Sanhui walks up to them and asks what happened. She wants to know how they beat the boss. But then she sees the Orc Lord's axe, and it immediately grabs her interest. A man from the academy enters the stage and tries to lay claim to the axe. He thinks the instructor was the one that killed the boss, so due to his contract, the loot belongs to the school. Sang-Hui is disgusted by the fat man's behavior. He reaches for the axe, but he is stopped by the MC. He tells them that the axe belongs to him because he killed the boss. At first, the man doesn't believe MC, but the instructor confirmed his story. MC yells at the man, saying he should to check on the rest of the team instead of trying to steal his axe. Then Sang-Hui tells them to bring the students to the hospital. At the hospital, she is given a report. The instructor that was in the dungeon gave her all the details, including the part about the MC's weapon changing forms. Seo Sang-Hui wonders if he has a creation skill that allows him to create weapons similar to SS rank Mana user Widesmith. So she goes to see for herself. In his room, MC takes a look at his stats and is pleased with his progress, but thinks he needs to get stronger since he can't always rely on the gacha. As he thinks about how he'll overcome this wall, Sang-Hui and the instructor walks into his room. She asked if he's okay, but since he didn't get injured, he says he should be out the next day. She's relieved and introduces herself as Seo Sang-Hui and says she is one of the task force leaders for the Korean Users Association. She says she owes him an explanation about what happened. Long story short, an academy salesperson was cheated in a dungeon scam. The location of the scammer who made the deal is unknown. They can guess it was due to the Karma Guild, but they don't have any proof. MC thinks it might be due to his incident with Joe Hakri, the asshole from the previous part. So he asks why they think it's karma. Sang-Hui says the association has had friction with the Karma Guild before. Relieved by this, MC then asked why they would target students. The instructor said they were probably after him because his father is the academy director. He apologizes for the trouble and offers compensation, so MC accepts it. Sang-Hui then asks MC if he would like to work for the government, but he quickly turns her down. In a flashback, we see MC has already served his time in the military, and he doesn't wish to go back. Sang-Hui says there are several benefits, like free use of government-run facilities, dungeons, and massive tax exemptions. But the catch is that 4 times a month he would have to clear the dungeon for the government, and they would get 70% of the profits. MC refuses again. Since he refused, she makes another deal. She asks if they could request him to clear dungeons for the association. She explains that as the number of dungeons increase, the number of Mana users won't be sufficient. She finishes by saying the profit split will be 70-30 in MC's favor. With the proposal being in his favor, he accepts and Sang-Hui is delighted with the new development. The instructor asks MC to attend graduation. Before they head out, Sang-Hui asks if she can buy the war axe. Time passed and Sang-Hui got Mika's contract. After he signs it, she asks him to come with her. She shows him to the association training center. The men in the training center notice the team leader walking, and they all turn up the intensity of their workouts in hopes of impressing her. They then notice Armik behind her, and they glare at him out of jealousy. A man greets her and guesses that MC was the one who took care of the Orc Lord, and he introduces himself as Han Sang-hyuk. He requests to have a duel with MC in VR. Sang-Hui gets mad at him because he is being rude toward MC, but he tries to make up a BS. Reason sees he's just trying to show off how strong he is to impress Sang-Hui, so he tries to decline. Sang-hyuk starts to taunt MC, and the whole room laughs at him, so MC confidently accepts the challenge. This shocks Sang-Hui because she thought he only beat the Orc Lord because of his item. Sang-hyuk and MC enter VR, and MC's game level 2 activates. Sang-hyuk says he is excited about their match, and MC notices his fighting stance is similar to the asshole from his former guild. Sang-hyuk says since MC killed an Orc Lord, he hopes to learn a thing or two from MC. But if not, then he can show off his strength to Sang-Hui. He charges at MC and says he is confident in his speed. But as expected, the attack doesn't reach MC, and he is defeated. After winning, MC storms off saying he'll take his leave. Pissed about this, Sang-Hui takes her anger out on Sang-hyuk. Later that night, he decides to use the connection gacha twice, since he now has 20+ mana. As he waits for his card to be selected, he wonders if he'll get his guaranteed rare. But instead, he gets a blank card. MC is very disappointed by this. A spirit appears and introduces himself as Jans from the Crowell Kingdom. This confuses MC. because he's not sure if such a place existed. So he asks when he was born in Yancey's Christian year 5728. MC guesses that the spirit is from another world. He quickly realizes that it'll be possible for him to one day summon fantasy heroes and superhumans from other worlds. He rolls the gacha again and he gets Liu Shan. He falls to his knee thinking why out of all the cards he had to get Liu again. He asks why he has to be so unlucky. His comments make Liu Shan depressed. But suddenly he gets a notification and Liu Shan is strengthened. As a reward, Mick receives a new skill called Combo Gacha. He looks at Liu Shan's stats and they have increased. But since they were bad from the start, it's not that impressive. He wishes his talent good luck level 2 would increase. MC asks if he knows why he was pulled again. Liu Shan says I'm the god of luck, and also since they made a strong connection. Mick starts to connect the dots since everything he pulls was somewhat close to it. Before he can confirm his theory, Liu Shan says goodbye and disappears. Once he's gone, Mick notices all his stats have increased by 1. Next, he uses his new combo gacha skill, and a new gacha machine appears. It tells him he's allowed to choose 2 figures in his record, and a figure who has a connection with both of them will randomly be loaded. Excited MC imagines all the possibilities. He opens his record and pulls out Liu Shan and Lu Bu Fengxian, and asks him if he is sure about this since the first try is free. MC decides to hold back. He then tries the dwarf giz, but he's told it's impossible. With that, MC now knows how to use the skill. At the entrance of a dungeon, MC gets ready to go in it. He uses his observation skill to check the dungeon info, and he's surprised it tells him what the monsters and the boss are. It also tells him that there is hidden treasure under the boss room. Armed with information, he heads inside the dungeon. Once inside, a group of goblins rushes at him. MC smashes the first on the ground and jabs another 2 in their heads, and then beheads the last one. Happy about the easy XP, he glares at the goblins and launches himself at them, mercilessly cutting them down. He levels up as he hunts them and happily slays the goblins. The boss appears, but MC kills it in only 1 hit. This makes MC ponder what his rank is. He pulls out a pickaxe and starts digging for the treasure. He finds a large cluster of blue gems. Once out of the dungeon, he asks if there are any other dungeons in the area. The man waiting for him shows a posting board called Mananet. It had a function to search for raids. MC finds a raid and calls them. They tell him the role has been filled. So MC hands over the mana stones to the agent from the association along with the giant crystal. He found it in the boss room. So according to his contract, the profits are his to keep. The next day we see him practicing in a training room. He ends his session, and as he walks through the hall, news breaks of a dungeon outbreak. The extras say the DSC guild must have failed again, and they hope for the best. MC says he was just there yesterday and hopes it wasn't the raid that rejected him, but he disregards that ID. At night, MC calls Liu Shan and they pull an info gadget. The machine appears, but only spits out blue capsules. This upsets both MC and Liu Shan. On their last try, they pull a spiky capsule. A notification says since he got critical info for the first time, the gacha will be upgraded. Another notification pops up and tells MC that in 4 days an artificial dungeon break will occur in Seoul. He was surprised that someone could intentionally break a dungeon and then wondered if the dungeon break from earlier was also artificial because when he was in the area, he couldn't feel the sign of a dungeon break. He thinks the man he talked to on the phone was the culprit since he made a quote-unquote connection with him. MC was able to pull the info about the dungeon break. He starts to panic, thinking he might die if he tries to stop the break on his own, but no one would believe him if he were to spread the info. And if they did believe him, they might turn him into an information-pulling machine. He decides to mention it indirectly to Sangi. Something pops up and MC presses it. It tells him that critical info refers to info that could change history. But if he changes history, he won't be able to pull future information. So he is tasked to prevent the damage caused by the break. If he's successful, he'll be rewarded. MC used to think about why he received his skill from Winner. But now he gets it. He can communicate with the universe. The next day, another dungeon breaks. At the Korean Users Association, a room full of officials complain about their current situation. Sang-hee tells the room that she has investigated, and none of the users that have been in the area felt the presence of a dungeon break. The president of the association catches on to the fact that these dungeons still had time before they were supposed to break, and Sang-hee confirms it. Sang-hee then shows them images taken around the dungeon breaks. Men with stab wounds, meaning they weren't killed by monsters, but by humans. They tell them the field team determined that someone probably figured out a way to force a dungeon break. After the meeting, she leaves the room. She thinks she's going to have a lot of work ahead of her. She decides to increase the number of dungeon quests and thinks MC would be a reliable person for this. Back at the academy, MC and everyone else attends their graduation ceremony. As MC accepts his certificate, the timer for the dungeon break counts down. The instructor tells him he'll be looking forward to his future accomplishment. So-yoon calls out to him and they congratulate each other. She then gives him a lucky charm she made for him. She saw MC discouraged after losing to the gacha and prayed for his good luck. She then asks him what are his plans going forward. But he says he hasn't figured it out yet and he's just going to raid dungeons for a while. As she is about to ask him to team up with her, Hishik interrupts them and beats her to the chase. He says he already acquired an E-class dungeon, but MC declined because he's busy and leaves. So-yoon glares at Hishik and chases him. He thinks they could help, but he doesn't want to put their lives in danger. He's determined to fight the break with his own strength. A few days later, we see RMC running around the city looking for the dungeon since he didn't get any coordinates. Due to his search, he finds out there are only 3 dungeons in the area. A kobold fortress, a tarantula nest, and a wolf lair. He decides the best way to stop the outbreak is to clear all the dungeons. But the problem is 2 of the dungeons are under the control of guilds. Sang-hee calls MC and requests him to clear a dungeon. He asks if there are any in his current area and if he can clear that one. She agrees and he shows his enthusiasm and says he'll clear it tomorrow. The next day he enters the wolf den. He easily takes care of the mob and the dungeon boss, but the timer is still counting down. Realizing that this isn't the dungeon that's going to break, he figures it must be the A-class dungeon because I'll be the one that'll cause most damage. He gets to the bridge before the timer is up. He sees a car drive up to the portal, so he goes to hide. 2 men get out of the car and walk to the portal. Initially, MC thinks they're government officials, but soon the portal starts to act up and he realizes it's about to break. The men notice him, but they think he'll be killed when the outbreak happens. They rip a scroll and it teleports them out of there. Luckily for MC, he used observation and saw their faces and even got their names. He calls out Liu Shan and used the combo gacha. He puts in Lubu Fengxian and Liu Shan. Then his pocket starts to glow. He pulls it out and sees it's the lucky charm he got from So-yoon. With observation, he sees it has an effect called the Saint's Blessing that increases his luck. The combo gacha starts and spits out a large number of cards. With the luck from Liu Shan and the lucky charm, MC pulls a diamond card. The dungeon finally breaks and the kobolds rush out ready to cause havoc. They stop when they see the powerful aura surrounding MC. His master of arms turns into a polearm. The kobolds goes in to attack him, but MC pulls a general called Zhang Fei and uses his skill Lion's Roar. The skill has the effect to reduce the attack power of enemies by 30%. The spirit of Zhang Fei says the world must be ending since dogs are walking on their hind legs, and he laughs at them. They rush in and MC uses a skill called Undefeated, which makes him more effective when fighting multiple enemies. With one strike, he cuts them down. He gets ready and charges at the rest of them, plowing them down. He jumps in the air and goes down for an AoE attack. But more kobolds pour out of the portal. Knowing he has a limited time until the gacha runs out, he tries to take care of as many of them as he can. He weaves through combat, slaying enemies and blocking oncoming attacks. But one got past his defense and cut his leg. He retaliates and slays them as well. They keep coming out of the portal, and MC easily dominate the fight. On the sideline, Zhang Fei watches the fight in excitement. As the battle goes on, it gets harder for MC to concentrate and focus on his surroundings. He thinks he still has a long way to go and dreams of one day being as strong as Zhang Fei. As more kobolds rush out of the portal, Zhang Fei tells MC his time is up and asks if he'll be okay. But MC confidently says he's going to win. Zhang Fei tells him to share the story of the fight next time he's called out. Like before MC, keeps some of Zhang Fei's stats and skills. He calls Liu Shan and they use the connection gacha. The kobolds rush to go for an attack, but a gold card is pulled out. The warrior he pulled this time is called Mordred, a rebel knight from Camelot. Then, the boss finally comes out of the portal. It's the same level as Mordred. MC gets ready for a long and hard fight. The kobold mobs charge and so MC. Use a skill called Claret. Pink energy surrounds his sword, and he attacks and takes out all the mobs except for the boss. The boss then goes for a sneak attack, but MC dodges it. Their blades clash, and they start to exchange blows with one another since their power is on par with each other. Realizing it'll be his lose when the load time runs out, so he's strengthening his resolve to finish the fight as fast as possible. He rushes back in, and they continue their fight. Little by little, they cut down the boss's defense. He sees an opening and seizes the opportunity and goes for the kill, but it was a trap. The boss impales RMC and pulls out the blade. He falls to the ground in pain. The boss smiles, thinking he won. He goes to behead MC, but his blade is blocked by a red aura. The boss backs up. As MC gets back to his feet, we see he had used his skill Dragon Blood Awakening. Not only does it heal all of his wounds, but also improves all of his stats. With the boost in power, he is now confident about winning the fight. The boss decides to fight back, but MC cuts him in half. Sanghi runs to the scene hoping to help take care of the outbreak, but as she gets closer to the scene she finds the dead bodies of the kobolds. MC tells her he took care of the outbreak and asks if she can take care of the cleanup. He tells her since he killed all of them the loot is his. Then he falls to the ground. They then carry him to the hospital so he can recover. While in the hospital, he checks his stat and sees he reached rank B. For most people, it is hard to hone a single skill, but in a short time, he has managed to acquire 10 powerful skills. Sanghui then comes in relieved to see doesn't even have a scar. By the look on her face, she must have had a long night dealing with the incident. She then thanks him for stopping the dungeon break. Knowing she must have a lot of questions, he says feel free to question him, and he will cooperate. First, she asks if he saw the criminal face. He says no, but tells her they are both men and that they used a warp scroll to get out of there. Then she asks him why he was there in the first place, because his timing was on the dot and he seemed to be waiting for it. So he lies and says it must have been destiny. Since he was already in the area clearing dungeons, it was a coincidence. He then asks whether she is sure it was the Karma Guild that caused the break. Although she doesn't have any proof, they are the prime suspect. They realize that the previous breaks were just a test run while the most recent one was supposed to be a full-out attack. They shift the topic to the monster he defeated. The loot is all being kept at the association, and recommends he entrust to an auction house so they can be sold for a higher price. Hearing this makes MC extremely happy, and he thanks her for the suggestion. After she leaves, he's visited by another person. Time is frozen and a portal opens. It's none other than Winry. She makes an elegant entrance and tells him she has come to give him his reward for stopping the outbreak. She asks him what he wants, saying that it's not unconditional. He asks for 999 mana, but she declines his request. She figures he requested so he can use the gacha more. So instead of increasing his mana, she offers him a ticket that he can use for his gachas. Excited, he asks how much it was. She tells him he'll have to pay with his stats. He'll get a ticket per stat reduced. He was outraged by this because he's using the gacha to increase his stats. She tells him his luck is good, going on to say if he pulls 10 cards he'll get a rare. Or higher, and she mentions that he's already gotten 3 diamonds in his first 30 draws. She wins him over by saying he'll be able to rapidly grow with this. He accepted her proposal, and she adds the feature to his system. He asked if there's an incentive for it, but says she's tired, and she quickly dipped. But he doesn't have time to be upset since So Yoon came to visit. She checks up on him and is relieved that he's okay. MC then asks if she wants to team up with him. She happily agrees and then leaves to prepare. Later, when MC is alone, he decides to try out the new feature. He gets a pop-up notifying him for his first purchase there will be a buy one get one free for a maximum of 10 tickets. He thinks it's a good deal but doesn't want to get a gambling habit. After hearing this, the gacha gives him another edition of 10 tickets, giving him 30 for the price of 10. So MC caves in. With 30 tickets, he uses them. On his 10th and 20th draw he gets a gold card, but the rest were useless. MC curses at the gacha. On his 29 pull, he gets Louis Shan again. We see MC with dead and discouraged eyes. He cries, saying he is a loser without Liu Shan in his luck. He tried one more time and hopes for a diamond card, but only gets another gold card. Some time passes, and MC is still upset about losing to the gacha yet again. Sanghi tells him to come in and then takes him to where his loot is being stored. She tells him they sorted through the loot. He takes a look at his loot, and a pair of gloves catches his attention. He used observation and sees the stats of the gloves. He sees it can increase his mana and mana sensitivity, so he takes them for himself. Sanghi gets a call and tells MC it's for him. The guild that managed the dungeon that broke have come to meet him. He wonders why they might be looking for him. Sanghi says they could be looking to recruit him or maybe to claim his loot. She says if that happens, she'll protect his loot from them reinsuring him. They walk into the room and a man introduces himself as Kim Sunsu from the KNM Guild. Sanghi introduces herself and MC. Kim Sunsu demands they shows him undeniable proof the MC took care of the break, and he asks for the footage of the fight. But Sanghi declines his request. The man smiles and proposes to spar with MC as he gives off a menacing aura. MC doesn't appreciate the fact that he's trying to pick a fight with him and finds the situation strange, so he uses observation. It turns out his name is not Kim Sung-soo but Seon Dong-hak, the same person responsible for the dungeon outbreak. MC asks to speak with Sanghi in private. He asks her to take him to a soundproof room. Once in the room, he uses observation on her. He says he's about to tell her personal information and it must be kept a secret. She confirms that she'll keep quiet and won't reveal this info. MC then starts to list out all the skills she has. She freaks out not knowing how he knows this. He tells her about his skill observation and saying it allows him to know the name, level, talent, and even the skills of his target. He says that the man isn't Kim Sung-soo. He's Seon Dong-hak, one of the two individuals present during the dungeon break. He apologizes for not telling her sooner, but he didn't want to expose his info. But he says he couldn't just stand still while a terrorist was in front of him. She tells him that he'll need to prove this to the organization by telling them about his observation skill. However, she doesn't recommend it. She says recently she began to think there might be a spy in the organization. But MC already has a plan in mind to expose him. They go to the room where Seon Dong-hak is waiting. MC tell him he's ready to show his skill up front, and Dong-hak was overjoyed because it was more than he initially wanted. MC uses confirmed gacha and loads a lady known as Jaina of Truth, someone he pulled when he got with the gacha. Her stat isn't any better than Liu Shan, but she has a very unique skill. MC asked both of them if it's okay to use his skill, and Sanghi and Dong-hak agrees. With that, the conditions for Jaina's skill has been fulfilled. Room of Truth activates. He tells Sanghi to say I am a man, but as she tries to say it, she's stopped by the skill. He then directs his attention to Dong-hak and tells him to say I'm Kim Sung-soo. Like Sanghi, he also stopped from finishing the statement. MC starts to taunt him, saying he'll give him all his loot if he can say it, but he doesn't get a response. He starts to get serious and addresses him by his real name. Knowing he's been caught, Dong-hak quickly tries to kill MC. Sanghi goes to stop him, but he sneaks past her. He pulls out a knife and rushes to kill MC. But Sanghi comes through and kicks him from behind and knocks him away. They pull off his skin mask and reveal his real face. Sanghi says they'll imprison him and interrogate him. But being the good old boy he is, MC helps her out and uses the info gacha, and he lucks out. The gacha tells him that Dong-hak killed Kim Sung-soo, and he's a member of Karma. MC relays the information to Sanghi. Elsewhere, and a man in a black robe says he lost contact with Seon Dong-hak. The room he's in is filled with people wearing animal masks. They figure it out he must have been caught. A man in a tiger mask says they don't know much since Sanghi has been investigating in secret. The man in the robe says Dong-hak probably won't talk, but they should take care of him quietly. A woman in a butterfly mask wonders what they're going to do with MC, since the reason they sent Dong-hak to the association was to get info on him. She goes on to say they only know that he's a ranky user, and he single-handedly handled a dungeon break. Some others in the room think he is an S rank kept hidden by the user association. someone else remembers that MC was also part of the Academy incident. A man in a bear mask then says Don Hack told him that someone was waiting at the dungeon as if they knew what was going to happen. He wonders if the info was leaked. The man in the robe tells them all to be quiet. He says they'll put this issue aside for now. But a man in a monkey mask lashes out. He's angry because they put in so much time and effort for the dungeon break plan. The robed man says he's just overreacting and it's probably just a coincidence since they don't have proof it was the same person. Even if they're the same person, they have too little information on him. Another masked person says if he did stop a break by himself, he'll be on par with an S rank. They technically could take care of him, but it'll set them back a lot and push back their ultimate goal. Going on to say it'll be better to use their resources to get rid of Sanyi. The monkey mask protested, but the robed man shuts him down, saying the break was his responsibility. And they needed the plan to work, but he failed, saying their master is very disappointed in him. He warned him that failing once is enough. With that, he ends their meeting and everyone warps out of there. When the monkey mask is alone, he promises to get MC back for ruining his plan and causing him to lose favor with their master. Some time has passed, and Sanyi welcomes MC to a room. Unfortunately, she hasn't slept much because she's been interrogating Don Hack. However, he hasn't cracked yet. She's contemplated using more violent methods, but the association wouldn't allow it. But she's hopeful that they'll get information on karma out of him. They changed the topic to the loot MC, acquired last time. She tells him a problem arose. Since the items were worth so much, they'll be taxed a large amount. She recommends that he try to increase his user grade because the higher his rank, the higher his tax breaks. MC sees the green and agrees to increase his rank. She then takes him to the room where V2S ranked users are tested. The room is filled with mana virtual machines. He asks if the exam will be done in VR, and Sanyi confirms it. She explains that he can rank up if he can prove his ability to the examiner. MC sees his easy victory because of his game talent. But then a large man enters the room and addresses Sanyi, calling her the pride of the association. She says it has been a while and calls the man teacher. He mocks her because she hasn't had time for him since she became successful. But she came back at him and said he could have visited if he wanted to see her so bad. She then wished she hadn't run into him. She introduces him to MC and explains he came to take the rank up exam. He recognizes MC as the one who stopped the dungeon break alone. He introduces himself as Jang Chulson. Sanyi asks Jang Chulson to call in the B-rank examiner so they can start the exam. She tells him B-rank is the highest he can achieve now, but his skill is well above that. Jang Chulson was shocked that his disciples regarded MC so highly. Because of this, he decides to do the examination himself. Sanyi protests because he usually examines S-rank, but he insists. He officially makes the offer to MC. He is excited about the chance to test his strength against an S-rank, MC. He agrees and says it would be an honor. When they enter VR, MC. S-game, talent activates. MC then checks his stats in VR. He expects that his reflexes should be 100, but it's capped at 99, so he guessed there must be some restriction. He then shifts his focus to his exam and gets ready to fight. Jang Chulson is seen welding a hammer and hits the ground to show off his power. He tells MC to come at him with all he's got. With a smirk on his face, MC charges in, but his attack is deflected. But this doesn't throw MC off, and he counters. As he goes for a jab, Jang Chulson stops the exam and tells him he passes. Chulson says that not even in a rank would have been able to control his last attack. He even comments saying MC must have been taught by masters. Jang Chulson thinks it would be a shame to stop now, so they both get ready to continue sparring. Jang Chulson rushes in with his oversized hammer, but MC dodges it and uses green dragon maneuvers to lunge his spear at Jang Chulson's head. The S-ranker quickly moves out of the way. Jang Chulson thinks he's faster than he was earlier, so he knocks him back. His grip on his weapon becomes unstable. He would have already lost if it wasn't for his game talent. He dreams about one day being able to face off against him without his game talent. The fight starts to pick up. MC launches a flurry of attacks. However, Jang Chulson is unfazed. He realizes something was off, and his combat experience is lacking compared to his physical abilities. He correctly calls out MC for having the game talent. MC is stunned by this and leaves an opening. Jang Chulson sees it and takes advantage of it. MC is sent flying, and Jang Chulson rushes in to finish him. MC admits defeat, and Jang Chulson helps him back up. MC then asks how he knew he had the game talent. Jang Chulson explains that others have had the game talent. Usually they're only strong in VR, but unlike them, MC was able to stop a break by himself. As they leave VR, he thinks he has a long way to go. With that, MC is now a B rank. After he leaves the room, Sang-hee asks what Jang Chulson thinks of MC. From Jang Chulson's perspective, it's been a long time since he's met someone as interesting as MC. So he expects he'll be seeing him sooner or later. Sang-hee whines that she didn't get a chance to fight out. See, so as Jang Chulson is leaving, she challenges him to a match. He tries to decline and get out of the situation, but she's very insistent. Later, MC meets up with So-yoon so they can raid a dungeon. So-yoon's nervous, but doesn't show it because she doesn't want to look like an amateur. She asks if they should get going, but then Hee-shik shows up. With that, their party is complete. Hee-shik is overjoyed that MC invited him to join his party. He greets So-yoon, but she lets off a dark aura as they shake hands. They then go to the portal located in Hwasun Suwon. While in the dungeon, MC thinks he could clear it in 10 minutes, but that's not his goal today. He wants to help his teammates gain more combat experience. As he watches the fight from the sideline, he thinks that So-yoon fights more like a monk than a saintess. Hee-shik complains that So-yoon has been glaring at him for a while, and wonders if he has upset her. When they reach the boss's room, So-yoon and Hee-shik are told they must take care of the boss alone. MC opens the door. The boss is alerted to their presence and jumps down to the battlefield. Hee-shik rushes in with his shield and blocks the boss's first strike. So-yoon jumps in and axe kicks the boss's head, and it drops to the floor. Once they get out of the dungeon, they part ways. MC has a gacha to lose to. He summons Liu Shan and tells Liu Shan to think of the strongest general he knows. MC starts the gacha. They realize the reason they got Janfei last time was most likely due to them being on a bridge. In history, Janfei had an epic battle on a bridge. This means the gacha can also be affected by the location. The card is finally selected, and MC receives a diamond card. But he doesn't notice any changes, so he looks around and sees the spirit of John Yakayo. MC introduces himself and thinks his stats aren't that impressive. Yakayon tells him he's lucky to be at where he is because there is hidden treasures. He tells him when the king commanded him to build this place, he added some secret locations. He tells MC to push a particular brick on the wall. Once MC finds it, he's told to put Kai into it. To his left, a portal appears. The doorway leads to the treasure dungeon. They both enter and are greeted by a giant humanoid. It tells MC if he passes the test of academics and martial arts, he'll be granted the treasure. The load time for Yakayon runs out, and he tells him to summon him again if he gets the reward. After he leaves, MC receives a boost to his stats and a detection skill, the same skill seekers use to find dungeons. Then the test begins with the academics section. The giant tells a riddle, and MC answers correctly, so they move on to the martial arts portion. MC he raises his weapon and uses observation. The giant's level is 40, so he's not worried about the fight's difficulty. MC starts by letting out a lion roar that reduces the boss's attack power. But the boss is somewhat resistant to it. The boss weaves through MC's flurry of blows as he comments on our protagonist's speed. Annoyed that his attacks haven't been reaching, he aims for the head, but he can only graze the shoulder. He then jumps in the air and goes for a powerful attack. The boss blocks it, but he's pushed. As he regains his stability, MC rushes in. The boss thinks it was a wrong move on him. Sees part since he's using a spare, but he turns his weapon into a sword and catches the boss off guard. With his next hit, he knocks the boss's weapon out of its hands, securing the victory. Behind MC, a crack opens, revealing a hidden room. He enters and finds 2 books and an object. He summons Yakayon again. Yakayon tells him to grab one of the books, and MC receives a new skill called Magua Hita. Yakaon explains the skill allows the user to relieve the pain of people. It then started to merge with them, sees tolerance skill to create a new skill called absolute immunity. Now our protagonist has a solid immunity to all diseases and poison. The next book is Bang Can You Go, a book about the geography of Korea, so the skill helps him with navigation. This new skill then begins to merge with his detection skill, and due to his game talent, it creates a new skill called Dungeon Map. All dungeons near him will be shown on a mini-map in MC. Will be notified when a new one appears. The last item then becomes an inventory skill. Once out, Yakaon and MC say their goodbyes. MC goes over the skill he received and takes a deeper look at the map skill. He figures out that the pins on the map are portals to dungeons and their colors are based on the dungeon rank. He thinks it'll be inconvenient to go to a portal that's already been claimed, so he turns on the notification to let him know when a new dungeon appears. With this, he can claim the dungeons around him before anyone else. We shift scenes and MC, and his squad is raiding a dungeon. He kills a lizard monster, and it drops a poisonous blood orb. Hishik asks if MC has any plans after their raid, but all our protagonist has planned is more training. Soyun doesn't have any plans either, so he invited them both to hang out at his house. He says he even has a training room and mono-virtual in his home. MC freaks out and thinks Hishik must be filthy rich to have that equipment in his house. He knows he was very well off since he could buy the last dungeon they raided, but not to that point. Hishik admits his older brother earns good money, even noting that his brother wanted to meet Soyun. Having no reason to decline, MC and Soyun agree. They arrive and see giant skyscrapers, and Hishik tells them this whole building is his house. They take an elevator up, and as they enter the penthouse, they are greeted by Hishik's older brother. His name is Kan Hijun. As MC introduces himself and recognizes his name, he's one of only 8 SS class users. Shocked by that, MC asked why he didn't give him a heads up, but Hishik didn't want them to feel uncomfortable. Kang Hijun asks MC if they've met somewhere before, and he walks up to him. At first, MC is a bit nervous, but that goes out the window when we find out Kang Hijun is a fanboy. He recognized MC from his days as the pro gamer Lightway. Kang Hijun tells them to make themselves comfortable and bring out tea and treats. While they hang out, Hijun and Soyun geek out about him. Sees history as a gamer, which makes him somewhat uncomfortable. Hishik doesn't get it, so MC says he used to be an unknown pro gamer when he was younger. Hijun hears this and is upset by it. While other players were trying to optimize their wins, MC played in an aggressive, flashy style that captivated onlookers. That's why Hijun joined his fan club, and Soyun interjects to say she was the one who made the fan club. But all MC wants is for them to stop. As it gets late, Soyun heads out. Hijun then thanks MC for taking care of his younger brother and saving his life. He says he'll take things into his own hands and ensure Hishik is trained so he's not a hassle. Out of curiosity, MC used observations on Hijun and noticed he has the talent game level 3 and freaks out. A notification then pops up saying, your communication level 3 has recognized your opponent's game level 3. Communication between talents has begun. Force reset game level 2. Energy starts to surround MC. But then time stops, and none other Minri Makina appears. She says it has been a while, and she's glad she was on time. If she were late, his body would have been blown to pieces. She explains that communication level 3 was in the process of forcefully increasing game level 2 to level 3. But MC thinks wouldn't that be good for him? Winry tells him that talents are assigned at birth and stay with you until death. The fact his talent was upgrading means there'll be a drastic change to his destiny. It's something that his body can't withstand. To stop the change, she gives him a necklace to take the burden off and reset his body. It'll also give him a minor luck boost. She leaves and Hijun starts to speak again. He says, as a fan, it's like a dream to meet him. Knowing that Hijun has gained level 3, he asked why didn't he try to be a pro gamer, but Hijun enjoyed watching others play rather than playing himself. He even compares being an SS rank to being forced to play an RPG. With Change Sins and MC has just successfully pulled 3 gold cards in a row and gives credit to his new necklace. He just pulled Angel of the White Nightingale, someone with healing abilities. Now that MC is nearly out of mana, he decides to use the info gacha and stop after that. To his surprise, he pulls a spiked capsule, but after reading it, he immediately runs off. Liu Shan reads the message, and it's urgent info. In 3 hours, Sanghi will be in immediate danger. At the association, Sanghi is outraged that someone secretly entered Donghak's cell and killed him. There weren't any clues because the camera footage had been deleted. She wonders how she is going to find the spy now. Suddenly a call comes in. It was time for her to clear in a class dungeon. She arrived at the dungeon site and hoped to get it over with fast so she could focus on finding the spy. She quickly sensed high-density mana. A dungeon breaks, and she realizes she has just walked into a trap. So she makes a call to request backup. Even though it's a trap, she is determined to stop the break and minimize damage. Werewolves walk out of the portal and start their attack. She was not too fazed by this and easily handles the first one by cutting it down. 3 of them try to surround her, but she pulls a Garrett and spins to win. One was standing there in fear of her, but he was also cut down. Finally, the boss appears. It's a tall and skinny werewolf. It uses its long arms to swipe at her, but she hops out of the way. She gets ready to use her axe to split the boss's head open. With the boss dead, she tries to regain her breath, but is interrupted by a group of men in masks. They applauded her and thanked her for the show. She looks around, but she's surrounded by them. She didn't think Karma would play this dirty, but they try to play it off by saying she blames everything on Karma. Their leader says they are her anti-fans. She tries to figure out how long it'll take for backup to show up because she's low on mana and stamina. But they tell her not to expect any backup, explaining the people in the association must hate her. As he taunts her, saying no one is going to save her, he's stabbed in the back by none other than our protagonist. The man falls to the ground and MC uses a new skill and cut down 3 of the masked men. Sanghi asks how he gets there, but he tells her they can talk about it later. He looks around and quickly assesses the situation. He decides it'll be best to make an escape route. The card he loaded, Juge Himi, started to panic, saying they were doomed. Though her attitude is negative, MC realizes she's right. Not only is Sanghi tired from stopping the break, but they're also outnumbered. Sanghi apologizes for putting them in a challenging situations, but he tells her to save it for when they are safe. The masked men wonder who MC is and think there must be a spy among them. A man with red hair tells them to shut it. He assumes MC is an S rank since he took down 4 B ranks without them noticing. He tells the others to proceed with their plan. They start to run in circles around MC and Sanghi. One of the men rushes to stab MC, but when MC, he looks up and sees a barrage of arrows storming down. He shields Sanghi, and the masked man running at them gets hit and falls to the ground. MC look at them in disgust because they killed their own teammate and didn't even bat an eye. They laugh at him, sees remarks, and even steps on the man's dead body. They say it's an honor to die in Fearmaster name. Talking to them is pointless, so they start to go on the offensive and clear a path. He keeps cutting them down, thinking if they keep going in one direction, they'll eventually be able to escape. Then someone goes to get a sneak attack on Sanghi, but MC strikes him down before they can reach him. Someone else tries to sneak attack MC, but Sanghi cuts him down with her axe. He throws a smoke bomb down, and they finally see an opening where they can escape. But as the smoke clears, the masked men are still on their tail. Juge Himi points out the leader so MC can take him out next. He also uses a skill called Blitz to get past all the mobs and strike the leader of the masked men. The redhead struggles to keep up with MC and asks for backup. They try to kill him while he's held up by the redhead, but he activates Floating Cloud. The skill allows him to dodge all of their attacks, then he goes in for the kill. He turns his attention to the redhead and tries to overpower him, but his attack power runs low. In the distance, Sanghi is having difficulty fending off the masked men. MC runs past the redhead to save Sanghi and gets there just in the nick of time. As he helps her up, Juge Himi tells him it's time for her to go. Now the situation is dire because he's back to the base form. Not having much of a choice, he pulls Liu Shan. Liu Shan comments that MC has a talent for getting in trouble. He tells Liu Shan to think of the most powerful general he knows again. MC uses the combo gacha and puts in Liu Shan and Zhang Fei because he needs someone strong enough to protect Sangi. With Liu Shan's left talent, the good luck charm, and the necklaces, and C's hopes are high. The gacha spits out many cards, and a diamond card is selected. MC. Aura spikes and the masked men start to freak out. They choose to back up and shoot arrows at them. Sangi looked at the flaming arrows and thought she couldn't dodge them all. But then MC, fully loaded a new hero. He knocks the arrows out of the sky. The King of Arms perfectly recreates the Spear Horyon down. If attacked by a long-range attack, the user's stats will increase. The warrior he loaded is the Sleeping Dragon Joe. He looks back at Sangi and says he'll protect her. The masked men tried to act as if they weren't scared and foolishly ran into attack. MC goes on the offensive and zooms into combat, knocking his opponents in the air. He ends up in the middle of the enemy. They think they can take him out with their numbers, but they are sadly mistaken. He uses a powerful skill called Bunsen Dragon's Rotation Claw Spear and clears the battlefield. The redhead is in disbelief. He looks around to find MC. But our protagonists comes from behind and take out the rest of their subordinates. The masked men start to lose the will to fight. Backed against the wall, the redhead focuses on the original goal of killing Sangi. He casts a berserker spell on himself and his remaining lackeys. They mindlessly rush at Sangi. MC get there in time and picks Sangi up and runs away. He turns his weapon into a sword and cuts anyone in his way. But even with a blade in them, they persist. The sleeping dragon Zhao realizes they are fixated on Sangi and suggests using her as bait. MC apologizes ahead of time and throws her in the air. The masked men focuses on her. MC takes advantage of the situation and slices through them. He catches Sangi before she falls, and the spirit of Zhou leaves. She's impressed that MC is capable of this. He asks her if Donhak revealed any info, but she sadly informs MC that he was assassinated. They must be a spy in the association's executive. The mission to save isn't over. He offers his services to help her find the spy. Back at the association, Sangi calls an emergency meeting, and she explains that while on a routine patrol, she was attacked by a group of 200 assailants. They immediately caused a dungeon break and blocked radio transmissions, so she couldn't call for backup. She told them MC witnessed this event, so that's why he's present. She explains she has a way to find the spy, but some prerequisites exist. She made them swear not to talk about what will happen. They agree, and MC uses Jaina's skill Vow of Silence. Second, she asks if they can use their skills on them. With that, the Room of Truth activates. Lastly, she tells them to say I am not a spy. One by one, the men in the room say it. Finally, only one is left. She found the spy. She tells them about effects of a Room of Truth and confronts him. As he tries to call it nonsense, he pulls out a knife to stab her. Chelson stops him. A sigh of relief comes from him. See as he falls to his seat. He thanked Jaina for all her help, but she said it was mainly his luck. Once the Room of Truth is active, she can't control it. Like how Sangi used it once the skill was functional, anyone can take advantage of it. Jaina died because someone called her a witch for using her talent, and she was burned at the stake. As he thinks he needs to be more careful, the association president stares at him as if he knows something. In a secret location, the executives of Karma learn that Sangi barely survived, and their attack squad was decimated. They start to panic. They didn't expect that she'd be able to keep fighting after stopping a dungeon break. Tiger Mask deduces that their information must have been off. Someone must have come to save her. They're not sure about the identity of this person, but all they know is that he's good at using both the sword and spear. Also that his power sharply spiked in the middle of a fight. Only a single individual comes to mind, Kang Hee-ju. They start to doubt their master because he's supposed to have probability on his side. The hooded man snaps at everyone. He won't forgive anyone who questions their master. Butterfly Mask shifts the topic to Sangi. Now that she has more prisoners, she worries that information will be leaked. But the hooded man confirms that the surviving attack team member lost their mind because of the berserker spell. However, this is still the worst-case scenario for them. Not only is Sangi still alive, but the association will also be very wary of them. Then Tiger Mask asks, where is the monkey mask? Apparently, after his dungeon break plan failed, he's been motivated to make something new. In his hideout, the monkey mask is seen fixating over a picture of RMC. Again he vows to get payback. Back at the association, the president questions MC. He knows it was MC, who used Room of Truth and not Sangi. The president thanks him. Not only did he save Sangi, but they also found the spy. As a reward for his actions, he lets MC keep a ring that increases his mana capacity. MC starts to wonder what bonus he'll get for the quest he received. He gets back home, and Winry is waiting for him. As they exchange pleasantries, she says it is somewhat problematic that they see each other so often. MC thinks he might have done something wrong, but she explains that's not what she meant. It consumes a lot of energy for her to interact with the world. As an overseer, she can only interfere in exceptional cases, such as the ones MC often finds himself in. MC asks why the system would offer him a reward for an issue regarding urgent information. But this isn't information she can share with him. Once he has more influence, she can share it with him. He then asks how he can increase his influence. She tells him that if he keeps leveling up, his influence will gradually grow. They move on to the topic of his reward. MC expresses that he wants a skill that lets him use money to operate the gadget. While using stats helps him conserve mana, it's still bothersome to keep sacrificing his stats. She said she'll keep that in mind. But first, she wants to show him the reward she had in mind. She guarantees he'll like it. The prize she had in mind was dual load, a skill that allows him to load 2 people at the same time. He starts to think of the possibilities, but then thinks of an issue. He only has one body, so how can he use both of them simultaneously? She explains that his stats will consist of the highest stats among both of the loaded people, but that is not all. He'll also be able to use all of their talents and skills. For example, if he loaded someone with swordsmanship level 2 and spear level 1 and the other person had archery level 2 and spear level 1, he would receive swordsmanship level 2, archery level 2, and spear level 1. With this skill, he can use Liu Shan and Yakaion to create top-tier weapons. But there is a catch. The dual load is an active skill that drains mana as he uses it. MC understands that she has to have it balanced, but he thinks the restrictions are too much. She can't do anything about that and offers him the skill. MC thinks for a second, and then he accepts it. She takes a glowing orb and shoves it into his body. She tells him she'll keep an eye on him and leaves. We shift scenes, and MC is getting beat in a fighting game by Hijun. As they banter, MC asks about a random machine in the corner of the room. But then the machine starts to act up. MC jumps for cover, but Hijun knows what's up. Out walks a blonde girl with pigtails. She confidently enters the room and demands they bring her snacks, but she's interrupted by MC. Hijun yells, saying, "Ellie, why didn't you call ahead of time?" But she thinks she can use her warp gate whenever she wants. She is curious about MC's identity. Hijun introduced MC. Then he says you've already heard of her. She's a SS class user from America. She is the inventor of Mana Virtual, the Awaker, and the DCS system. The richest person in the world and the first awakened, Ally McDowell. As they are about to shake hands, she notices his bracelet. She asks him if he's been to a treasure dungeon. Hijun starts to freak out, and MC uses observation on her. His skill takes a while to break through the layers of her security. Eventually, it gets through, and he sees she has 17 talents. Hijun tells him not to be on edge. He explains she has a skill that can analyze any object and tell her how it's made. However, there are 2 things it can't explore, both of which came from a treasure dungeon. So since she couldn't analyze it, it must have come from a treasure dungeon. Hijun asks a favor from MC. He explains that he knows about the Otherworlders since he went to a treasure dungeon. Apparently they know the reason behind the dungeon phenomena. Hijun and Ellie have been gathering information about them from people who have been in them. So far, they have figured out that the Otherworlders are restricted by something called genes, and from multiple accounts. Someone used the Earth as payment and asked some Otherworlders to delete all humans off the Earth. Although they don't have any proof, they think it's the leader of Karma. So the dungeons that has been appearing are merely their exploration teams. Recently, they've been hearing the stories of stronger, more intelligent monsters appearing. They worry that, eventually, these monsters will be more common, and they'll start to see Otherworlders. However, the Otherworlders from the treasure dungeon seem to want to help humanity. So they ask him for help since the otherworlders acknowledged him, and the other 2 users who received an item from treasure dungeons became SS class users. All their ask is that MC keep leveling up, so when stronger monsters or even outworlders attack them in the future, he'll be able to help them. So he agrees. Ali infos him know if he needs anything to let her know. With that, they shake hands. Elsewhere, a group of otherworldly beings watch over the world as they sinisterly smile and wait for their plan to unfold. We shift to a scene where MC and his squad are raiding a dungeon. Hishik's shield is cracked, so Soyun rushes to solve the problem with her fist. MC blocks an oncoming attack and a part of armor breaks. He tells her to be more careful, but with some teamwork, they eventually kill the boss. In the aftermath of the fight, they take a look at the damage done to their gear. With some of their equipment broken, they decide to go shopping. They go to a department store where artisans can be seen selling their wares. Seo Yoon leaves to explore on her own. As Hishik heads to the armory, they see someone complaining about getting all dogs. MC finds out they have a lottery room. You can buy equipment for cheap, but the quality of the equipment will vary drastically. Being the addict he is, he goes to test his luck. He walks into the room and uses his observation skill, so he doesn't get ripped off. As he goes through the wares, he hears a voice asking for help. He walks through the voice and sees it's coming from a ring. It's shocked that someone can listen to its voice. A pixie-like being appears and introduces herself as Ixie, one of the 13 armor pieces made by the Gold Dragon Lord. Jackpot, he just found an ego item. He asks her why he called him an extraordinary being. She thinks he is a dragon, but he tells her he's a human. Then she starts to cry, thinking she will never escape. He asks her if only dragons can use her, but she tells him that was not the case. She is currently in a sealed form which isn't of much use to him, and the seal would be way too challenging to break for a human. He tells her he'll buy her and worry about the seal later. She burst out into tears and thanked him. She said she was able to help him find good equipment in the room. He trusts her and buys the things she tells him to. He asked if she had an appraisal skill, but she said it was more of a feeling. He gives some of the equipment to Seo Yoon and Hishik. They're excited and thank him for the gift. As they leave the department store, MC gets a notification that tells him a new dungeon has appeared. The portal appeared in the city's center, so he runs off to clear it before it becomes a problem. He gets there and checks out its info. It's a B-rank dungeon filled with ghouls. Ixia asks if it'll be okay since he already used a lot of mana. He checked, and it turns out he only has half of his full capacity. He thanks her for her caution. He shifts his attention to her seal, but she doesn't think a mere human could break the seal. He still gives it a shot. To his and her surprise, his observation skill cracked through the first and second seals without any issue, but he failed to break the third seal. Ixia then starts to glow, and like a magical girl, her appearance and abilities are upgraded. Her stats are stronger than his glove and ring combined. Not only can she grow stronger, she also comes with a talent sense. The sense was the skill she used to find the items earlier. Since he never got to go through all the items he bought, he went through everything. Most of the equipment were good quality items that boosted his stat, but there were a few doubts. But since he got a lot of good things, he's pretty happy about the outcome. He equips everything and gets ready to enter the dungeon. Ixia tells him he might want to be careful as soon as he enters. Once he enters, he is attacked by a ghoul. He eliminates it quickly. More ghouls start to creep up on him. They run and try to claw at MC. But in one strike, he gets rid of the group. Ixia looks at the dead ghoul and says what a waste. She then asks him if she can eat the monsters. He gives her the okay, and she sucks them up, not leaving anything behind. He sees her growth rate go up afterward, and she tells him if he fills the meter, that'll break the third seal. He continues to go through the dungeon and complains about the smell. The ghouls at first pose no challenge to him, but then till one of them catches his weapon. And another pulled up from the side and tried to sneak attack him. But he turns his weapon into a sword and slices through them. The horde of ghouls seems never-ending. He uses a lion roar to slow them down as he prepares to take them out in one strike. Finally, he finds the boss room, and Ixia imagines how tasty the boss will be. MC summons Liu Shan, and Ixia is freaked out by him calling him a ghost. Liu Shan formally introduced himself as Emperor of the Shu Dynasty to impress her. Still, it backfired on him. They get down to business, and Ixia tells him when to push the button. The Gatcher runs, and on the first try they pull a gold card. This time he loaded an archer called Tristan. Once in the boss's room, he immediately shoots the boss. It tries to charge at MC, but it's killed in one shot. MC gets a call from Siyun once he's out. It is urgent, and she needs him to dress formal. As he walks there, he feels an ominous aura pointed at him. But Ixia didn't sense anything, so he doesn't linger and moves on. Once MC finally arrives, he's greeted by a man in a demanding pose. MC apologizes for not coming to see him sooner and offers him a big bottle of wine. The man is hurt that MC didn't come to see him as soon as he became a mana user. He even started a team and didn't tell him. Instead, he visited Hiju. MC apologizes again and pours the man a glass. We find out the man is So-Yoon's father. He complained about having to block all the guilds trying to recruit her. As he drinks, the alcohol starts to get to him, and he asks MC if he's dating So-Yoon. MC denies it and says she is like a sister to him. Her dad takes it the wrong way and yells at him for not seeing his daughter as a woman. Daddy, chill. Her mom comes and takes care of her husband. She tells So-Yoon to take MC for a walk. While on their walk, she apologizes for her father's behavior, but MC says it was his one fault for not coming to visit him sooner. He then gives her a necklace he found in the lottery room. He thought it suited her, and it also boosted her mana detection. She accepts it, saying she'll treasure it. But their heartfelt moment is cut short by a woman in a ninja outfit looking for So-Yoon. Both MC and So-Yoon quickly get away from her. They didn't even sense her presence. She must be a high-ranking mana user. He checked her stats, and she was on par with an S rank. She addresses So-Yoon and demands that she come with him. But suddenly, MC grabs her hand so he can utilize her luck. He used the Faith Gacha, and a gold card is pulled. The ninja notices his power level increasing, but the men falls to MC. Unfortunately, they aren't quick enough, and they're also clicked out. The person he loaded introduced herself as the first spear of the Knights of Fire. MC asked them if they are from Karma, but they deny it, saying they do not like those lunatics. But from MC's perspective, they are doing the same crazy shit as Karma. Their leader says they need the Saintess abilities, and if he doesn't want to see any blood, he should back off. With the Saintess blessing boosting his stats, he decides to go on the offensive to overpower them. One of the ninjas tries to close the distance, but he's knocked out of the sky. The rest of them persist and try to attack him from all sides, but he deflects their attack. As they fight MC, they think he's a monster, and they can't get past his defense. In the distance, MC notices a ninja hiding in a bush. He assumes he was setting up a trap, so he throws a spear to get rid of him. With the trap the ninja set up broken, MC and So-Yoon make a break for it. The leader of the ninjas tells one of her men to fix the trap, as the rest go after our protagonists. MC and So-Yoon have been running for a while, but are still stuck in the trap. He asks So-Yoon if she knows the identity of the group that's after her, but unfortunately for them she doesn't have a clue. But then they hear a voice. It says, "I found you." As they look up, they see a man in a monkey mask squatting on a lamppost. The man jumps down and MC tries to defend So-Yoon, thinking he is after her. He corrects MC's assumptions and says he is actually after MC. He casts a spell that creates a gate arm, and So-Yoon tries to block it, but it cracks her shield. He is surprised that they are able to block his attack. MC tries to scan the masked man to get info on him, but the man has a mythic artifact that limits the information that can be collected, so most of the information is blocked. All MC can find out is that the man's stats have been drastically improved by an illegal incantation. With his load time finished, our protagonist is put on his back foot as the masked man's power increases. He determines that he's as strong as an SS rank. The masked man notices MC. Power has weakened, so he takes control of the situation. He sends out his arms to attack, but So-Yoon blocks him. She tells MC to run, but he refuses. As the arm breaks So-Yoon's shield, MC loads another gold card. With anger in his heart, he shoots an explosive arrow at him. The masked man blocks the attack, but he's shocked because he didn't think MC was an archer. Seeing his strength up front, he understands how MC managed to stop in a ranked dungeon break. But he's confident that MC won't be able to break through his barrier. However, MC isn't discouraged and uses a freezing arrow to trap the masked man. He charges up his arrow again, and with the help of So Yoon's blessing, he lets it rip. As the arrow approaches the masked man, all he can say is shit. It collides and makes a large explosion, but when the smoke clears, he's still standing. The masked man is resolved to kill them both in one strike for making him use his master's blessing twice. Seo Yoon falls due to exhaustion, and the masked man prepares to end things. However, the ninja from before comes from behind and slashes him. She demands to know who the man with the evil magic is. MC tells them he's an assassin after So Yoon's head. As the masked man is getting back up, but he's met with the ninja's blade. MC tells her to hold him back for a while as he uses the fake gacha, but he pulls Liu Shan again. With that, MC is entirely out of mana. The fight continues, and the ninjas are at a significant disadvantage. She yells and asks MC to hurry up, but he's not doing so well himself. In these situations, he has always managed to pull the card he needs, but his luck is failing him. The fight isn't going well, so MC makes a drastic choice. He removes the necklace Winry gave him to stop his talent from leveling up, hoping it'll change the tide of the battle. The sky opens up and a large amount of energy strikes him, and he screams in pain. He feels the energy from the universe flowing through him, but it stopped earlier than expected. He gets a notification, and it tells him he met the conditions. A rapid and sudden change will commence. A sharp pain is felt, and he spits out blood. His body contorts as he screams. He thinks he would have died if Winry hadn't stopped it from happening when she did. The masked sees MC isn't in a good state. His internal energy is exploding. He takes the chance to get rid of him. So Yoon tries to block the attack, but before it reaches her, MC stops the attack. His talent has upgraded, and he used the dragon blood skill to power up. The system tells him he has achieved something rare and will be rewarded. A black card will be loaded for free. Black cards are more powerful than diamond cards. He rips the ticket, and black cards surround him. The masked man is shocked by sees power up, but he is interrupted by the ninja. He tells her to piss off and use an AoE attack. MC loads another archer from the black card and shoots at the masked man. He tries to block it, but the arrow pierces his defense and breaks his shield. He falls to the ground and asks him how did he do so much damage, but MC said he just shot a regular arrow. With his bow pointed at the masked man, he starts questioning him, but the masked man tries to divert him, sees attention and blinks away. But the person that was loaded, Iseon Jai, quickly finds where he teleported to, so MC shoots an arrow at him again. With a bow pointed at him, he thinks that MC is dangerous. If left alive, he will hinder Karma's plans. So he musters up the last of his power and charges at MC, intending to kill him. But the attempt is futile. He ends up with an arrow in his skull. Ixiel appears and points out the frightening aura coming from his artifacts. He picks it up but becomes dizzy and collapses. When he wakes up, the first thing he sees is the patch note. The info gacha has been updated. Now he can choose between future and past info. Also, he can now pull black cards from the fake gacha. He looks at his surroundings. He's in an old-looking home. He sits up and thinks about how strong black cards are compared to diamond cards. Excluding non-combatants, diamond cards are capped at level 99, but Iseon Jai was level 178. He wonders if some of the other heroes could be pulled as black cards. The ninja from before walks in with Soyun. She introduces herself as Ryu Saren from the martial art group Big Dipper. MC recognize the name of a group. They are mana users that awaken without the help of the Awakener machine. She swallows her pride and begs for Soyun's help to save the young lady. They follow her and enter the room where the young lady of the Big Dipper clan rests. Ryu Saren gives Soyun a statue. She isn't sure what Soyun is supposed to do with it. She was only told to give it to her. MC scans it. It has a skill called All Recovery, which only the Saintess can use. Soyun begins to absorb the skill. MC asks Ryu Saren if the young lady was typically this thing. Saren explains that she was pretty healthy, but recently became sick. The young lady can see the future. One day, she had a vision of a large-scale invasion of monsters. But when she told the elders and urged them to no longer live in seclusion, the elders rejected her proposal. As they argued, someone managed to attack her and put her into a coma. They believe the opposition did it, but they lack proof. So-Yoon gets done absorbing the all-recovery skill. She then starts to heal the young lady. Her complexion improves, but the light coming from So-Yoon gets weaker. MC loads Nightingale and assists So-Yoon. Her aura surges, and she fully heals the young lady. She wakes up, and Saren is overjoyed. The young lady thanks So-Yoon for her help as well as MC. He immediately gets down to business and asks her about her vision. He wants to know when the invasion will happen. She looks at her phone to check the time, and then she counts down from 4 to 0. Suddenly, he gets multiple alerts that there are a lot of new dungeons on the map. On the TV, the news talk about the massive increase of dungeons around the world. MC can't leave yet since he's still recovering, so he uses the future setting on the gacha. He summons Liu Shan, and they start the gacha. After a little bit, it spits out a spiky capsule. It tells him to destroy the monster Didardo. He's unsure who it is, but he figures it has to do with the new dungeons. In the USA, a pair of users start a dungeon raid, but one of the men is killed as soon as they enter. His teammate looks around and sees a group of skeletons aiming their bows at him. They fire at him. All around the world, Mana users are overwhelmed by the new monsters. They are more intelligent and stronger than before. Back at the Korean User Association, they're busy responding to the state of emergency. The president forbids anyone from entering the new dungeons. He tells Sang-hee to figure out the characteristics of these new monsters and to assemble a team of high-ranking users. She calls MC and commissions him to clear a dungeon with her. The price is 10 billion won. This fires up MC, and he says he can go right now. He gets there and is met by Sang-hee and 4 other Mana users, 2 from the Specialist Guild and the other 2 from the KHM Guild. Him Soa starts taunts MC because he's a B rank. He thinks he shouldn't be here, but Sang-hee stops him, saying if any goes wrong, she take the place. With the whole team there, they enter the dungeon. Once they are inside, they are met by 3 doors, so they split into 3 groups of 2. Kim Soha tries to get onto Sang-hee's team, but his guildmate pulls him off. They get into their teams and go their respective doors. They enter and find themselves in a forest. Sang-hee explains that it must be a mission-type dungeon. Unlike other dungeons, you can find all sorts of environments in them. While in an annihilation-type dungeon, you can feel the killing intent of the monsters. However, a mission dungeon feels like it is trying to make you stronger. Before they move forward, she reminds him to stay calm. They encounter a group of humanoid chimps and prepare to fight. By using observation, he finds out the chimps are known as Konka. The Konka leader gives a speech to hype up his army. Sang-hee realizes they are intelligent, but she can't understand them. The Konka prepares themselves, but they are interrupted by us, speaking in their language. Because of his game talent, the information he gets is displayed as a quest. It tells him to defeat the Konka, collect the solar and lunar souls, and destroy the shackle that binds the souls of the Konka. He rushes into battle and lunges the spear at the Konka holding the shield. The Konka is knocked back, and MC gets behind him and launches another attack. The Konka yells, saying although his strike was fast and strong, his defense is stronger. MC turns his weapon into a sword and relentlessly attacks his opponents. As the Konka calls MC, foolish MC, attack pierces the shield. As the Konka falls, MC takes his shield. He looks to Sandy, but she doesn't need any help. He brings out Ixia and tells her to meet the corpses, but she acts suspicious and says she's full. So he looks at her stats and finds her growth rate is over 50%. To his memory, it was 1% before. He demands she tells him the truth. It turns out she ate the man in the monkey mask while MC was out cold. For a second, he's disgusted and thinks it is the wrong thing to do, but concludes that it's better that Karma didn't get his body back. Ixia then eats the corpses of the Konka, and a pink gemstone is dropped. He scans the gem, and it's the solar and lunar soul gem they need to complete their quest. If he keeps killing the Konka, they can get all the solar and lunar soul they need. He tells Ixia to clean up the bodies as soon as they drop. MC and Sanghi approach the Conca tribe village. They look at the village and determine the black pillar is the shackles they must destroy to complete the mission. Before heading down to the village, MC winds up and throws his spear at the post. It hits and the pillar breaks. He gets a pop-up and the first part of the mission has been cleared. They get teleported back and arrive in a room with 3 orbs, 2 of which are displaying the other teams that came with them. Sanghi thinks they are just supposed to watch and wait, but thinking there might be more to it, MC summons Yak Yang. He tells MC how to use the altar, but even after that Yak Yang still feels that something's missing. Then one of the gems fell on the altar. A new screen pops up. It tells him depending on how many of these gems are placed at the altar, it can affect their allies in different ways. They can even intervene and send people to fight. As he does this, their allies' health are replenished, and they keep fighting, but soon they are surrounded. Sanghi chooses to enter the battle. She lays down on the altar with gems and is teleported away. On the other orb spectating the KMN guild, they face off against a giant Conca. The tanker on their team defends against the Conca powerful blows. Finally, he yells to his teammate, now. He dashed in and attacks the Conca's leg, but he didn't do any damage. Frustrated, he goes back in to blitz their target. But the monkey lets out a yawn, pissing him off more. Back at the altar, MC complains that the buffs aren't doing anything to help the fight, but he can't go there to help since he doesn't have enough gems. Then he sees gems on the shield to remember he also has one too. By placing the shield on the altar, he has enough to teleport to help. Back on the side of KMN, the swordsman gets knocked back by the monkey. He gets pissed, saying there's no way a rising star like him could be beat by a monkey. The Conca hears this and kicks the tanker out of the way. He raises his shield. While looking down at the swordsman, he planned to end him. But he's saved when MC jumps into the fight. He uses the green dragon maneuver and dragon tiger strike skills together, and they combine, creating a new skill, dragon tiger strike. The Conca falls to the ground, and the swordsman is utterly shocked that a B rank could do that. While the tanker compliments his skill and tries to recruit him to their guild, the swordsman is jealous of the spotlight RMC is getting, and starts to plan some dumb shit. They are all teleported back to the altar, and MC explains to them the current situation. He puts more gems on the altar and steps on it to go and help the other group. Once he's gone, the tanker sings sees praise, upsetting the swordsman. Some time passed, and MC returned with everyone else. Sanghi gets a report from everybody. She then turns to MC to ask what to do next, but he doesn't know. Luckily for him, a power fury aura begins a surge at the altar. Sanghi tells everyone to prepare, but when it stops, a door to the boss room appears. MC checks the altar and finds out that the group can choose to have a challenging boss fight and get a better reward, or an easier fight, but they'll get a worse reward. As a group, they decide to go with the easier option and set up camp for the night. Due to it being his first time trying to sleep in a dungeon, he can't. He gets up to practice, but notices someone is missing, so he looks around. The swordsman from before is doing some dumb shit. He was at the altar, opening the door to the boss room. He spits out some bees, saying anything you can do, I can do as well. He thinks if he fights the boss on easy mode, he can take care of it alone. He unsheaths his sword as the door opens, but is hit with a morning star. It sends him flying past some other raid members. The boss enters the scene. The tanker charges at the boss with his shield, but he's knocked back. Sanghi rushes in, but her axe is caught up in the chains of the boss's morning star. So he takes the chance to throws her down. They determine the swordman must have messed up and picked the hardcore setting for the fight. With no other option, MC gets ready to use the fate gacha. As he powers up, the boss senses him as a worthy opponent. He loads Lu Bufeng's Iron as a black card, and this time he gets access to a new horse summoning skill. He uses it and a red horse runs out of a portal. He mounts it and gets ready for the boss. On his mount he charges and then jabs the boss. The boss gets thrown back and hits a door. It gets back up and compliments the hit it just received. As it monologues, MC charges in and attacks, but the boss ducks. The boss tries to get rid of the horse, but his attack is caught under the horse's hoof. Then the horse proceeds to headbutt the boss. MC goes in for another attack and cuts the boss's arm off. but the boss can regenerate and grows a new limb. He lunges at MC, but MC uses his range and gets a clean hit while he's still charging at him. The strike impales the boss. As he dies, he deems MC strong enough, so he gives MC a skill called Conker's Fighting Spirit. It increases his stamina by 20. MC then asks the boss if he knows Deterran. The boss knows of him. He tells MC that he is the sovereign of the dead, an elder archlick. Now he has a soul bleed. Once they get out, Sanghi thanks them for their hard work. The tanker apologizes for his teammates' behavior. Before he leaves, she asks MC to make some time and come to the association. He needs to renew his mono watch and readjust his payment for the raid. Because he played a significant role in clearing the dungeon, she'll pay him the same as an S rank. Also, while he's there, he can be promoted to a rank. She tells him to get some rest and then reminds the swordsman to make a written apology for his actions. The next day, MC gets his promotion and his renewed mono watch. Behind him, a group of recruiters are held back by security. It's even worse than when they were after Soyu. When he gets a moment to himself, he looks at his stats. He is around S rank now, but is disappointed to see the horse summoning skill wasn't there. But he has some reasons to be excited. Not only did he receive Kyunka's Fighting Spirit, which will allow him to clear dungeons faster than before, but the golden capsule information he received when he first used Liu Shan is tomorrow. A dungeon will appear with a skill stone in it. Elsewhere in a secret location, the hooded man tells the room the last user of the Blood Jade has been selected. Butterfly brings up that they still haven't found Monkey yet. He's the only one who knows how to create the Blood Jade. But the hooded man tells her Bear is dealing with it and they should find Monkey soon. Tiger then asks where the location of the next attack will be. The hooded man warns them that they won't be able to predict the battle's outcome, and says the next attack will be at sea. The next day comes around, and MC gets to the location of the dungeon before it appears. It's a one-person dungeon, and he'll be fighting against a doppelganger. He wonders if the doppelganger can copy his skill and equipment. He asks Ixia if she confirmed it can copy skills, but not the effect of his equipment. He expects it to be like a fight between an A rank and an S rank. He enters, but there's nothing there. He looks down at the water and sees his reflection. It then attacks him. MC attacks his reflection, but the doppelganger is already gone. It starts to form a body in the image of MC. It welcomes MC. To its nest, it says it has already analyzed his info, exclaiming that they are the same. But MC isn't one for small talk. He charges at the doppelganger, but his attack is blocked. As they exchange blows, they seem to be on par with one another, but soon MC gets ahead. He uses his abilities more fluidly. The doppelganger gets irritated by this, but MC use Lion's Roar while he's talking. The doppelganger is knocked back and put on the ground. It uses observations on MC. He's stunned when he discovers a talent he can't copy. Communication level 3. The doppelganger gets mad. In his own words, he feels humiliated. MC tells it like it is. Communication level 3 isn't a combat skill, so he was just better. The doppelganger used the skill Roaring Dragon Strike in a desperate attempt to kill MC, but the attack is blocked with ease. He puts the halberd blade to its neck and tells the doppelganger to die quietly. But to postpone his death, the doppelganger says he doesn't even want to be here. He offers to tell MC what he knows. MC lets his guard down and the doppelganger smirks. He summons a dark Liu Shan and uses the Fate Gacha. The situation starts to look bad for MC, as the doppelganger says he'll never compromise. But he draws a normal card. MC can't even laugh because he feels his pain. He stabs the doppelganger and levels up 10 times. Finally, he picks up the skill stone and leaves. Elsewhere, Karma is up to their same old BS, forcing open an SS class dungeon. The dungeon breaks, but before they can escape, the boss walks out and grabs them. He complains that they brought him out before he could recover all of his strength. They practically ruined his plan, so he blows them up. Since he can't do anything about it, he summons his ships and skeleton crew. He complains that he already used a lot of energy to do this much. He hits the reanimated remains of the Karma Guild members out of frustration. After a bit, the pirate notices he is being watched via satellite. In the distance, the Japanese defense forces approach the undead fleet. The pirate used water magic to create a fog, which allows their ships to sink the enemy without them realizing it. From the sideline, the pirate laughs at the chaos he's causing. He looks forward to everything he'll be plundering. At the association, Sanhee brings MC in for an emergency meeting. They enter a room with the association president, Hee-hun, and the defense minister. They show footage of the undead fleet in Dokdo. Immediately C thinks it might be the Elder Archlick. They considered bombarding most of the area, but can't since they haven't confirmed the fate of the Japanese ship that disappeared in the mist. So instead they're going in with mana users. Hee-hun and MC both agree to participate. The association president explains they plan to infiltrate through two routes. They want Hee-jun and MC to be the operations leaders. The defense minister tells them the operation will begin after the evacuation is completed. MC asks if he can meet them there. As he leaves to prepare for the battle, he asks Hee-jun if he has a forge or knows of one nearby. He gets to the workshop in Hee-jun's house and summons Yak-yon. MC plans to forge the double dragon sword, blades used by General Yi-Sun-shin, someone who is known for their naval battles. According to C's logic, if they forge the sword, they might be able to summon Yi-Sun-shin. If that happens, victory is theirs. They start the forging process. He uses dual load and brings out Liu Shan. With all the pieces in place, the process continues. Yak-yon guides him through, so he doesn't make any mistakes. Ixia tells him when to stop, and then he dunks it in water. The hot iron sizzles in the water as Liu Shan cheers him on. The blades are nearly done. All that's left is for Yak-yon to inscribe something on them. With that, they successfully create a legendary artifact. A pop-up tells him the universe will reward him for this feat. Elsewhere in a fighter jet, a pilot is asked if he can see the ships. Unfortunately, due to the fog, he can't see much. But he sees something through a clearing. The undead pirate captain. He notices the jets and uses his magic to bring them down. The pilots tries to escape, but their jets explode. The captain says the only permitted path for them is the sea. A Navy commander panics. The more this goes on, the more undead there'll be. He tells Hee-hun that the Navy will provide cover fire as the mana users does the hand-to-hand combat. The commander tells all ships to enter the fog. Immediately they can't see anything. Their radar stops working, and communication goes down. The commander tells his crew to slow the ship down and fire if they see anything suspicious. An unidentified ship approaches them, and they open fire on it. The boat starts to sink, but when the commander looked at it closely, it was a Japanese Defense Force ship. From their side rushes in the Lich Captain. He calls them stupid for falling for his trick and rams his ship into theirs. The mana users on the ship all prepare to fight. The Lich Captain thinks they're cute and calls them brave. He commands his undead legion to kill them all. From Hee-hun's ship, he can see this happen, but he can't do much since his ship is surrounded. One of the sailors suggests they get out of the fog. On the other ship, it's a one-sided slaughter. The Lich Captain watches the slaughter and thinks the metal ships aren't anything special. He smiles, thinking their deaths will make him stronger. One of his scouts sees a small boat in the distance, but the Lich Captain pays it no mind. What difference could a boat make? MC hopes he's not too late. He jumps onto the nearest ship. The sailors are startled by him. MC introduces himself and takes command of the ship. Everyone on deck feels his aura. It's terrifying, but they think if they follow him, they'll win. Behind MC, an older man says how he missed the sea. Yi-Sun-shin pulls out his sword and declares the enemies who are messing with his homeland won't escape this fight. MC activates a series of skills that boost the stats of everyone, increasing their chances of winning. Yi-Sun-shin says they should hurry up and attack, but Ixia senses some bad vibes and thinks it's a trap. Yi-Sun-shin says it doesn't matter. A naval battle is about who has stronger firepower. Then a light starts to surround the ship. The Lich Captain gets news of a ship approaching. The ship has a dragon's head in front and is covered from all sides. It is called a turtle ship. The Lich Captain likes it and plans to make it a part of his fleet. Both ships confront each other head-on, but the turtle ship has a secret. It can shoot fire. The Lich Captain says shit as his ship catches on fire. The turtle ship ramps through a ghost ship. MC use communication to restore the comms. He gets a status report from all the relevant players. Since no one has an active radar, MC uses Sunshin's skill to navigate to his nearest ally. He sees them through the mist and goes between his ally and the ghost ship. Once in place, he fires at the ghost ship and boards it. A door opens, and the mana users rushes out to fight an undead sailors. MC jumps down to join the party. With his new swords, he gathers energy and slashes at the undead horde. The Lich Captain finally starts to get annoyed by them. He yells, "I am the king of the sea. All things in the sea belong to him." He promises to show them his real power. He summons a massive dragon-boned man of war. The man of war eclipsed the turtle ship in size. The Lich Captain thinks they're trying to hide in the fog, but he is right behind them. They won't escape so easily. As he thinks he's caught them, they enter a shallow area with jagged rocks. It's hard to maneuver. The Lich Captain looks around and sees he's trapped between two mountains. He realized MC must have found a way to see through his mist. The Lich Captain arrogantly says they're just rocks, but his ship is stopped due to shallow water. He's pissed off by this and swears to kill MC. The Lich Captain's ship beats the current and is about to come out. MC uses Trump Card, a skill called Current Modification. The skill changes and strengthens the current, stopping the Elder Lich in his place. Sunshin tells MC his time is up and he wishes him luck as he leaves. To end the fight, MC uses Combo Gacha and enters a black card ticket he got as a reward for making a legendary item. He then puts in Mordred and Tristan, hoping to get a black card from the round table. He starts to power up, and the light for the gacha can be seen from the Lich's ship. He was shocked by him, sees overwhelming aura. His Master of Arm turns into Excalibur. Yes, he did it. He drew Arthur Pendragon, a level 201 hero. A Lich Captain recognizes how dangerous the situation is and starts to plan his escape. He considers abandoning his ship but decides not to. Instead, he charges full speed ahead. He says he and his ship are invincible. But will he be a match for MC, who is wielding the power of a king? He launches a slash of light at the Lich's ship. The attack is taken head-on, and his ship is split in half. Everything is covered in a blinding light. MC levels up in size and relief, but he is shocked when he levels up multiple times. He thinks his rapid growth recently may be due to the Conquer's fighting spirit. But when his ship returns to normal, he falls into the water. He swims back up and grabs onto a wooden board. In the background, the sailors cheer that they are still alive. The hat that the Lich Captain wore drifts in the wind, and MC catches it. The item is called the Tartarin's hat. The stats are good, but MC doesn't want to wear that around. But it has a hidden effect and turns into a headband. Behind him creeps up Winry. She interrupts his moment and accidentally spooks him. He is surprised to see her and asks how long she has been watching. She said she had been watching since he took her necklace off and unlocked game level 3. She gave him the necklace back after exchanging pleasantries. She offered him a reward for clearing the emergency information. A wheel appears. If he spins, he can get a talent. Depending on where he lands, he can even get a level 3 talent. She tells him he only has one chance. He points out how small the level 3 slot is and complains, but she says it can't be helped. He summons Liu Shan and Ixia. Ixia gets a feeling and tells him now, and MC spins the wheel. He anxiously waits for his results. The wheel slows down and looks like it's about to land on a level 1 talent, but it keeps going and land on level 3. He receives command level 3. He looks at his stats and sees command level 3 is on Liu Shan's stat page. MC freaks out and yells at Lushan to give him his talent back. He complains to Winry, and she tells him to cancel the load and check again. He refreshes, and his new talent is there. He realized he must have got an extra reward. Liu Shan also got a copy of command level 3. Lastly, she gave the necklace he got from the monkey an ability. From now on, when people look at his status, they only see his original 3 talents. Over the intercoms, they're told the ship is arriving at the port. Time passes, and a boar rushes at Hishik, but he completely stops the charge. He's 20 levels higher than the last time they raided together. He-Hun must have put him through hell. 2 more boar rush at him, and he struggles to hold them back. MC calls out Liu Shan and uses command paired with luck. He used the talent to link his team so they are in sync. The talent also has a growth effect on his allies. They feel lighter than before and quickly takes care of their foes. Lushan laughs and starts to get overconfident. The next day they enter another dungeon. Lushan commands them to go forth. Soyun and Hishik rush in and quickly defeat the ghouls. As Soyun hits them, they turn to Ash since she's the saintess. He scans her, and she's already level 27, and Hishik is level 45. 7 more levels than the previous day. He pulls up Conka's fighting spirit, and the skill has another effect that erases all penalties from gaining experience. He tells his teammates not to be surprised when they renew their mana watches. Finally, they get to the boss's room, and Hishik knocks out the boss's knees. Seo Yun then goes in and stomps on it. The boss dies, and they all level up. MC gets a pop-up telling him all his stats have reached 99 points. He will no longer be able to increase his stats. He somewhat expected this to happen, but doesn't know what to do now, so he uses the info gacha on the future setting. We shift scenes and MC walks up to a portal. He scans it and is told it's a secret dungeon prepared for one person. The info he got previously told him he'd be able to change his class. He steadies his heart and walks through the portal. But when he enters, he falls through the sky. He screams, but he eventually hits a cloud, and it stops his fall. A figure looms over him, and out of instinct, he attacks the figure. Then asked who it was. It turns out to be a bird creature. It compliments MC's reaction. It says it's good to be suspicious of people when in unknown places. He tells MC not to be wary of him and asks him to put his weapon down. Ixia says he isn't lying, so he relaxes. The bird introduces himself as Grandel. His role is to guide MC before he enters the trial. He explains that they are above the sky, headed toward Delapar, where the class trial is performed. Only a few beings in the universe can reach the limit, and only a few out of them met the condition to attempt the class trial. Grandel hands MC a red gem. MC asks what type of test it will be, but Grandel tells him they arrived at the heavenly mountain Dalapar. As MC takes in the view, he is pushed off the cloud and sent falling. He hits the ground but is protected by a shield. He figures the magic came from to the gem. In the sky, fireworks goes off. He gets a pop-up. It says all the users who are present will be fighting for a special title. The title will have an enormous influence on the direction of the user's growth. They are all told that only one person will be awarded the title. Since it's a battle royale, his game talent activates, and his stats are tripled. He gets ready for a free-for-all. He makes his way to the mountain because he assumes the other contestants will also be headed there. His talent game level 3 is supposed to triple his stats, but because he's at the limit it does nothing. So he has to be cautious. Ixia comes out and tells him she sensed something coming from the bushes. A wolf walks out, and MC lets his guard down. Seeing this, the wolf rushes in for an attack. MC dodges it and scans the wolf. It turns out the wolf is also a participant. The wolf's name is Tinia. He compliments his speed, but he says he wouldn't have killed MC if he had taken the bite graciously. But now, he shouldn't expect any mercy. MC turns his weapon into a short sword. The wolf lunges at him, and MC uses Dragon Tiger Strike. However, Tinia changes his direction in midair, and he backs off, and a healing skill is activated. But MC doesn't give him a chance to fully recover and attacks. Tinia catches the hit with his mouth. He tries to crush the weapon, but he breaks his teeth on the spear. The weapon is turned into a pair of metal gloves. MC smirks and says having good gear is also a skill. Tinia goes to claw at MC, but he dodges and lands a counter-strike. With that, Tinia spits out blood and gets thrown back. But before he could recover, MC gets on top of him and points a blade at its neck. Tinia tells MC to kill him, but since Tinia didn't have any intention of killing MC, he decides to let him go. But he runs Tinia's pockets as payment for his life. Among the loot, he finds some round blue gems. Tinia says they are called possession stones. It's used as currency at the store. He thanks Tinia for all the info and tells him to withdraw. However, Tinia has something else in mind. He has acknowledged MC's strength and asks to join forces. He says he'll give up first place to him. MC agrees, and Tinia uses a skill to establish a hierarchy with MC, of course, now that he has a fluffy friend. There's only one thing he wants to do, and that's belly rubs. As MC and Tinia bond, a man lurks behind a tree. Time passes, and the island starts to fall apart and causes a massive quake. In the meantime, Tinia took down the man that was following. In the distance, MC sees a knight climbing a mountain, but immediately an arrow is shot at him. But the arrow bounces off his helmet. MC decides to target the archer. On the other side of the mountain, an elven archer aims at the knight and fires at him again. But Tinia jumps at her from behind. She jumps off and draws her arrow at Tinia. But MC goes in for an attack as she's falling and knocks her down. When she looks up, MC is their god. He tells her to give him everything she's got and he'll let her live. She tries to use her looks to charm him, but that doesn't work, and he threatens to make her wolf food. So she uses the red stone and teleports out. MC promises not to show mercy to the next elf he meets. They see the knight is still getting sniped from multiple directions, so they go to take care of the snipers. After a few hours, they accumulated a large sum of possession stones. It starts to get dark, and Tinia suggests they rest, but MC feels like they could use the darkness to ambush people. But Tinia warns him not to push himself too much. He agrees, and Tinia takes him to a place he has already found. But when they get there, it's a small cave. He barely fits in it and thinks Tinia probably wouldn't fit. But Tinia's body starts to glow and polymorphs into a human. Apparently, Tinia is a girl. MC is embarrassed. He hands her a shirt and then goes to bed. The next day, Tinia walks out well rested, but it looks like MC didn't get much sleep. They notice marks that lead to the river. They move stealthily, but Tinia sees something. It's the store. As they approach, Tinia is put on guard. But then the island starts shaking, and suddenly participants run out of the bushes towards the shop. They are attacked by people hiding in the bushes. A chaotic battle commences. MC decides to forget the shop for now. Instead, he plans to take care of the archers. He tells Tinia he has a plan. Tinia charges into battle. She faces off against a mage who uses ice magic. But the mage misses. She's too fast. While the mage is distracted, MC gets up close and knocks him out. But he's immediately attacked by a barrage of arrows. He dodges, but his opponent keeps firing their crossbows. But MC deflects her arrows as he approaches her. With her attention on MC, she doesn't see Tinia rush in from above. As she tries to shoot at Tinia, MC throws a spear at her, pinning her to the tree. They consider waiting for the winner so they can ambush them, but he assumes that there might be others with the same plan. But then he gets a bright idea and throws his spear at the shop. The rest of the participants are baffled by his actions and take their anger out on each other. MC gets away, and after a while, he comes across another shop. There must be more than one. How sad. What were they fighting for? He opens the door and sees a magic circle on the floor and an altar. He puts his stones on the altar, and a menu pops up. It allows him to buy all sorts of items, from food, weapons, potions, and other utility items. However, after browsing the shop for a bit, he finds a devious item. It allows him to quicken the progression of the island's breakdown. Outside the shop, Tinia feels the effects of the item. She is confused by this. The quakes are supposed to happen in regular intervals. But soon MC walks out and explains the situation and tells her his plan. Since they are in the island's center, they can secure a spot that allows them to hunt contestants easily. At this point, there are 8 contestants left. MC didn't expect his plan to be this effective. After some time, they come across several dead contestants. In front of them is a troll lord. He sits there eating his victims. It's a lot stronger than him. It notices MC and throws the limb he was eating to the ground. He wonders how MC will taste. MC rushes in, but Tinia tries to stop him. He uses Dragon Tiger Strike, but when the attack reaches, the troll activates a skill. The skill Dragon Tiger Strike is now unusable. The skill the troll used can lock up to 5 skills. All of MC combat skills become unusable, including the Fate and Combo Gacha. The troll raises his weapon and goes in for the kill. But Tinia takes one for the team and knocks MC out of the way. She gets struck and thrown back. MC tries to attack, but the troll is unfazed by his attack. He taunts MC for being weak. The troll kicks MC. The battle continues, and the troll dominates. MC is on his back foot, but his situation worsens when the troll catches his spear. The troll spins MC around and throws him to the ground. He pulls out the red return gem, and the troll calls him shameful for wanting to quit. But instead, he crushes the stone, and through some anime bullshit, he absorbs the essence of Grendel. This allows him to get the skill, Ultra Speed. The troll calls him foolish but honorable, and rushes at him. As this happens, Green Dragon Maneuver merges with Ultra Speed and creates a new skill. The troll sends his mace crashing down at MC, but when the smoke clears, MC isn't there. He's behind him. The troll likes that the fight is getting exciting and attacks again. MC uses his new skill, Mountain Dragon Maneuver, and charges at the troll head-on. The troll screams out in pain as MC runs past him. The system tells him he has reached speeds that cannot be achieved at his level, so he will be rewarded for his accomplishments. He gets a passive skill called Godly Speed. It allows him to overcome his speed limits. After the battle, MC checks on Tinia. He says they should rest, but she doesn't want to linger. She praises his fighting skills. She didn't think he could beat a troll lord. But as she says this, the troll lord gets back up and comes back swinging with his mace. He gets a clean hit on MC and sends him flying. Tinia notices it wasn't a wound that could be healed naturally, so the troll explains that he has a time regression skill. Now that he's totally healed, he walks up to MC, apologizes for calling him weak, and says he'll enjoy eating him. He goes for one final blow, but, shocker, MC blocked it. He then gets back up and disarms the troll. Because of his new skill, Godly Speed, game level 3 applies, and his speed is tripled. His aura is much stronger now, and the troll cowers in fear. Now that he's back, he attacks the troll at speeds that the troll can't track. While the troll is on the ground, MC ruthlessly attacks him. He plans to make him wish he didn't have a time regression skill. He keeps beating him. After a while, he finishes off the troll and checks on Tinia. She's okay but unable to fight, and thinks about giving up. But MC takes the gem out of her mouth and tells her to rest. He then jumps up as high as he can. Elsewhere, a contestant hides while overlooking the island. But behind him, MC appears. He knocks his weapon out of his hand and puts his blade to his neck. MC robs him but lets him live. Suddenly, MC feels something. From above, another contestant looks down at him. He thinks MC is too strong for him and runs away. But as he tries to get away, MC is there and knocks him out. The process is repeated, and one by one, he takes care of his competition. He defeats an elf, but as she tries to forfeit, he takes away her return stone. He has some beef with elves and is going to bully this one. After that, only 2 contestants are left, MC and Tinia. She thanks him for everything and then forfeits. Fireworks go off in celebration of his victory. For once in his life, he got first place, and he won. He's teleported to the reward room. Grendel welcomes him with a big hug. MC asks about the reward, so Grendel tells him this is the place only the winner has access to. Since Grendel was his guide, he also got a prize. He points MC to the castle door for his reward. He tells him to hurry since he'll only have a limited time in there. He looks at his watch, and it seemed like he'll only have about 3 hours and 20 minutes. He pushed the door open and entered. Initially, there's nothing in the room. It's empty. But suddenly, birds made of golden energy swarm around him. One enters him, and all his stats are boosted by 1. Then more birds start to enter him and boost his stats. But it soon slows down. One last bird enters him, and he prepares to leave. But then a gate falls and blocks the exit. He gets a pop-up. The Hall of Trials has begun. The test is too difficult for the user's current level, so extra rewards will be given if he is successful. Doors open, and bird golems carrying hammers walk out. MC wonders why the guards are coming out. He should still have time left. But then he remembered he had his watch on him the day he met He-Hun, and Winry stopped time. Basically, the watch has been broken ever since then. So with no other choice, he uses the fixed load ticket he got for overcoming his limits. The birds attack him, but MC catches their heavy hammer. No one from Earth would have been able to block that attack. But since he loaded Hercules, it's not much for him. He throws one of the bird golems into the crowd, but it gets back up. He figures out that breaking its core is the fastest way to kill it. But their cores are constantly moving because of magic. But he doesn't know magic, so he summons a metal club. He proceeds to swing at the golems. He smashes one of them to pieces. Another one tries to sneak attack him, but MC catches on and breaks its leg. As it falls, he swings up. They keep moving even after his hits, so he decides to turn them into dust and goes berserk. This leaves some golems in all. Their bodies are made of steel, but one by one he breaks them down. With the last golem down, he levels up. The system tells him his reward will be given outside, and the exit is unblocked.